Sandra all the time is here with the cold hard truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, to call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra. And
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. All right, folks, happy Friday. Hello. Good morning, beautiful people. Where's everybody today? All right, I still get you sorted out with some links. Give me a quick minute. Hello to all of the beautiful people in Radio Land. How you guys doing? Everybody good? All right. We got a lot to talk about today. Give me one quick second. Yes. Grabbing your social links. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. Let me see here. Got to scroll things across multiple windows. Get everything going for you guys. Everybody's good? Hello, Instagram world. How you guys doing? All right. Sending out the links right now to the channel. The links are not available until we go live for like Facebook and stuff. So that's why it takes me a quick minute after I'm live to actually send that out to everyone. And then Facebook has been doing some really weird stuff lately. I got to tell you the truth. We're live, but it's not even showing up on the main page. So I have to go under the video section and then kind of reshare it. It's a bit weird. What can I tell you? Those Facebook people, they need to get it together. Being such a large platform, they do have a lot of issues sometimes. So we just got to work with it and keep it moving, honey child. So today's Friday. We're going to be talking about things politicking and ticking. Things are ticking along. Yes. So I'm actually sharing it on the main page as well, so that those of you who tend to go to the page can find it easily. All right, now it's in the channel. And hold on a second here, honey child. Let me share it with my Windsor Park folks. So normally I share with them, Washington Boulevard, good people down in there. And of course, the Caymanians in Florida, I also share it with that group. So I'm not in too many groups because I can't take the hot mess of, everything that's going on. So somebody is excited about one of the people coming on today. Come on through, honey child. We waiting for you. All righty, honey child. Here we go. All right, let me see. All right, while we're waiting on them, let's talk. Yes, sir. All righty, good, goody. All right, so let me just see who else we got around here. Yes, beautiful. Okay. All right, so we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to dive straight in this morning. Politics. Election season has officially kicked off here. I don't know about anybody else, but we are ready. And I must tell you, hold on, let me turn on my camera so y'all can see me, because I know y'all like to see me. Ta-da! Woo, honey child. Wearing my Christmas red today. I've been wearing a lot of red this week. I wore some red yesterday. I wore some red the day before. And 'tis the season. What can I say? Red it is. So listen, honey child. Listen now. We kicked it off December the 1st. The wheels are a little bit slow moving for some of your candidates and wannabe MPs. They don't really quite have it together. So we are waiting on them. And we, Lord, what? Yeah. So while we're waiting on them, we're not going to just sit back and do nothing. We do what we got to do. So we're going to have discussions. Some of these people are like, oh, they're not going to be ready until February. I'm like, February, March, elections in April. You think that's enough time for people to get to know who you are? I don't know about that. I felt like saying to them, what are you talking about, Willis? So apparently there was a youth forum last night. Nobody told me about this. So I did have a connected person say to me yesterday, let me try to find the message. They said something about this youth forum group. Did they reach out to you? And I was like, who? What? No, I don't know who these people are. Where's that message now? I'm trying to find it. So I'm a bit confused. Youth parliament? And I didn't know anything about it. Let me just see if I can find this method. Was it not youth parliament? Youth something. Hold on. Let me try to find them. Let me try to find this message. Where is this youth message? Hold on. Somebody says the camera looks crooked. Hold on, let me see. Oh, honey child, I think it's a little bit too close. All right, let me try to, I'm actually going to push it back. Tilt that way. I think it's always going to look crooked, to be honest, because it's a little bit hard to line it up. If you're trying to line it up with that monitor in the background, it's never going to happen. I don't know what to tell you, but it's a thing that I've been trying to. Okay, hold on. I think that's the best that I can get it. Just close one eye and then it won't look so wonky. Oh, hold on one second. I think I need to turn on that other light behind me as well. Oh Lord, y'all complicate my life now. Let me see if I can remotely do that. Uh-oh. Oh gosh. What is that light called again? Anyway, there's another light over in that corner, over there. All right, if we take a break, I'll turn it on. I'm supposed to have the app, but now I can't remember what the heck it's called. Oh, is it, oh gosh, I can't remember. Y'all taxing the brain. All right, so listen. It was some sort of a youth thing. Youth debate. Hold on, I'm trying to find the message. Because I was like, they were like, did these people reach out to you? And I said, no, who is this? And I don't know who it is. So apparently after the event, I was youth forum. Is that what it was? Oh, yes. So this person said, did the youth forum kids reach out to you? And I'm like, no. And then they just did this little face like, and then that was the end of that message. Everybody gets busy. So I didn't know anything about this event. So this person says it was actually sponsored by the Alex Panton Foundation. Was it an event by them? Oh man, who dropped the ball in terms of telling me? I like to know these things. You know, I like to support. Let me find out who was behind organizing that event. Apparently, nobody told me. And you know, when you have things like this, tell us, because we will share it with other people and then more people will show up. Was there a live stream? Did it stream anywhere? So apparently it was held at the South Sound, what's that called? Is that their Civic Center? Maybe. So nobody reached out. I don't know who organized it. I don't know. I think Deja is in charge of it. Who the heck is Deja? I don't even know who Deja is. So anyway, these young people decided to have a forum, political forum. I think the timing of it is because they wanted to do it when people were home. I guess they reached out, like university kids. I'm assuming they reached out to some of the candidates. Let me see. She is Zandrea Abraham's daughter, Jean Solomon's granddaughter. Once again, don't know who she is, but nobody told me it was happening. Who did they tell? Anyhow, I can't be there if I don't know. So, you know, I try to make an effort. I know everybody's busy right now, and yesterday was a crazy day for me. But had I known, I would have either been there myself or I would have tried to make arrangements for somebody to be there on our behalf. Was it live streamed anywhere? So that's the other question that I have is, was it live streamed anywhere that we can go back and watch it? So I got a phone call after the event and somebody saying, where were you? And I'm just like, say what? I can't be somewhere if I don't know. But they did send a question or comment rather. So I'm share that this morning with you guys because people have questions about what happened. And we're going to delve into it, actually, because I wasn't there. So you guys got to tell me. All right, we've got our first guest. If he's ready, let's do him first. And then I'm going to get back to the youth forum. If someone has a link, if anybody knows if it was live streamed, by all means, do let me know. And we're going to discuss that here in a second. Oh, okay. All right, fixing the camera. All right. So somebody recorded it. Don't think it was live streamed. All right, let me message that person and see if I can get a copy of it. That's the other thing. I've been trying to get a copy of Makiva's last meeting and all now. Can't get a copy of that hot mess. You know, you guys, I can't be in 50 places at once, but we have resources and thank God for technology because we can kind of make it work. But I'm going to move this over just a toops. I still need you guys to let me know what's going on. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me fix my light in the background. And I'm also going to fix my flags, okay? Which are on the monitors back there. So hold on 1 second. All right. Does not look better? Look at those beautiful flags back there and that nice highlight of a light. Yes. We got to represent with that Cayman flag, honey chill. All right. So if you guys don't let me know what's going on, you know, I can't do anything about it. And I want to be there for events like this. You know, we keep talking about our young people and having them positioned, you know, to be able to participate in this process, to have a voice. And when they host events, by God, organize it so that people know, people are in the know, because then I can, you know, like I said, try to make arrangements to be there. So we have big shout out to the Federation. Let me tell you what they're called now. Is it drag racing? But there's a racing federation, and they actually had some people come down and talk to like John Gray High School, Clifton Hunter, a bunch of the schools yesterday, Formula One racers. And so they had told us, mind you, we didn't have a whole lot of time, a whole lot of notice, but they did tell us about that, that they were launching Formula One in schools on Thursday, which was yesterday at 4:30 at John Gray High School. And it included John Gray, Clifton Hunter High Schools, and CIS. And again, because yesterday was a bit of a problem-solving day for me, lots of things came up. Oh, this is broken and not fixed. And, you know, so I had to redivert my efforts. I was really, really pleased to see that this is something that, you know, our young people are getting to take advantage of through the Cayman Motoring Federation. So, you know, they're trying to push the love of, you know, cars and racing, but in a safe way, and educating people and exposing them to professionals and stuff as well. Somebody was like, oh yeah, I was wondering why you weren't there. I can't show up to places I don't know anything about, unfortunately. All right. Are guests ready? Today's a fast-paced day. All right. Let's bring you in, honey chow. Any guesses This 'tis the season, so I'm gonna give y'all a little something. I don't know what I have around the place. Maybe I'll just do a gift certificate or something. I've got a massage gift certificate around here. Any guesses for who is in the studio today? 9362626. If you can guess who's joining me, I'll give you a hint. Politics. Any guesses? And who's in the studio? Win yourself something, honey child. It's Christmas time. Drag racing. No. Oh my God, not that kind of drag racing. All right, let's see who can get it. Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Hello, honey
Mr.
child.
Wilson, England.
How the hell you know that? You got some inside sources. But congratulations, honey child. We're going to give you a gift certificate this morning. Hold on now. Let me just take down your number. Okay, send me a WhatsApp message with your name, and I'm going to sort out a Foster's gift card for you. All righty. All right, honey. I feel like that person had some inside sauce, Naina. Caller, we already have a winner, believe it or not. Hello? Oh, gosh. How did y'all know that? I didn't mention it, did I? Y'all seem to know what's going on around here. Y'all keeping up. Good morning. We already have a winner. Oh, he posted it on Facebook. He's one step ahead of me. Mess with him. We have a winner already, honey Jill.
They called in or what?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. She wanted to make sure they're following the rules. You heard that in her voice? Did they call in, Sandy? Because if they put in the comment section, that's not how you win in the cold hard truth. Yes, they did call in. I think he's having some connectivity issues though. But yes, we have Rolston in the studio. Juanita says Bolton, England. I think you meant to say Rolston, England, but we'll take Bolton too. Live Happy says Dr. McField. Which Dr. McField would you be talking about, honey chill? Apparently he posted it. All right, Rolston, what's going on with your camera? You seem to be having some issues. You need my help. There we go. That's better. Keep it right there. Don't move it. Back up just a little bit. That's a little bit close, but yeah. All right, there you go. Hello, Rolf. Bring the camera down so I don't see the light at the top. Yes. That's better. Good morning, Rolf.
Okay. Morning, Sandra. Morning. How are you?
I'm good. Here I am thinking you were going to be a surprise guest, and apparently everybody already knew the answer to my trivia question because they said that you posted it. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Sandra.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's actually your first time, I believe,
it is.
on the program. So a warm virtual welcome to you, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sandra.
So, why are we here? Well, we know you're a former minister and member of parliament. At the time, I think it might not have been parliament, but everybody knows what we mean. And you've decided that you're going to try to serve the people of the Cayman Islands again and throw your hat in the ring.
Absolutely, Sandra.
Tell us why.
Well, if we look at the last 4 years, if you look at the last 12 years, and you look at the direction, the fact of the matter is so many people keep telling me Cayman is not heading in any direction. It seems to be going any which way but loose. And so for me, I look at it very simply. Is there an opportunity to serve, and will I make a net positive contribution? If the incumbent members were doing a great job, I would be the first one to just remain in the private sector and just be a happy citizen and lead my private life. But I looked on and I believe that there's a real need. There's a real need in Cayman, and there's a real need for service for people who are going to be level-headed and be able to come to the table, work with others to ensure that we're helping to solve our most critical issues. Working with others is so important, Sandra. And, the last few years, I keep hearing the refrain of people, they don't want another independent-led government. right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that a person can't be an independent candidate and positively contribute to a party or a team or a group, but it's about how the government itself is structured. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for me, that is what brought me to the conclusion that I should, once again stand for election
Mm-hmm.
in the constituency of West Bay North. I believe the people there are thirsty, hungry for change,
Mm-hmm.
and want to ensure that the next representative is going to be someone who's going to work for them, who's going to positively contribute as a legislator, um, potential as a minister, but most importantly, as a representative on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest with you, Rosalind. I'm getting this question a lot about independence, and I have a particular view. And I was thinking I'm actually going to maybe do one of my editorial vlogs on this. But it's not so much a question of independence, but I think you hit the nail on the head partially, and that it really comes down to the individual candidates that we're electing. Because if you have people who are about this country first and foremost and not about their egos, and they can set all of this other stuff aside, they will work together for the betterment of this country, regardless of, what affiliations they may or may not have. And so I think that people say, oh, the independent experiment didn't work. We have always had this country is not founded, and it has not fully embraced political parties. No matter how you cut it and how you try to dissect it, the truth of the matter is UDP no longer exists. CDP no longer exists. The other day, I was having an analysis of the 14 plus parties that we could think of and alliances throughout, modern political history in the Cayman Islands. None of them exist anymore, except for the progressives in some form. And they're trying to reinvent themselves, reinvigorate themselves as 4.0, because, obviously their version 1 and version 2 and version 3 left a lot to be desired. So I think it really isn't a question of, poor Rolston's having some connectivity issues. It's really not a question, folks, of party politics versus independence. It's really about people trying to select better candidates to begin with. Because when you put people in public office and they're like, hey, I'm here about the people's business, they're not vying for position. Not everybody's trying to be a chief. People understand that teamwork is required, and you've got to have more Indians than you do chiefs. And the Indians, the worker bees, are in fact, in many instances, much more important than the so-called chief, if you will. And so I think that that's unfortunately where we went wrong, is we had an interesting combination of overinflated personalities and, to be quite frank, some people who were more followers than leaders. And so throughout the process, they were being misled. And let me say for the record, the one party that we do have played a very instrumental part in the tearing apart of the last government, whether you guys realize that or not. But anyway, that's for another day. I don't want to go too deep into that conversation here right now. But Ralston is back in the ring. Some people are very, very happy to hear this news. I'm going to share one little screenshot with you here. Ralston, hold on one second. I think you might chuckle when you see this one. And so people are saying, hey, Ralston's a smart guy. And so let's see what he's going to be bringing to the table. But this person sent me this when they heard that you were on today. They sent this one that said, Raleigh is on today. This was at 7:39. Like a bomb, he's back. So I got to tell you, when I saw this, I had a real chuckle this morning, because yes, indeed, he is back. And
Yeah, no, that is a good one. Sandra, the fact is, when we look at the housing crisis that we have, cost of living crisis, immigration is back in crisis. We have so many issues that are going to take a solid group of individuals who are going to be like-minded and rowing together for the
Mhm.
betterment of Team Cayman. This is about the Cayman Islands, and as you hit a nail on the head, it's not about it is not so much about how you get there, but more importantly, who gets there, right?
Mhm.
Um, when I look at our history, and if I was to just offer two comments on what the points you made, look,
Mm-hmm.
when we had teams, every one of those teams ran on a manifesto. They were
Mm-hmm.
on a group manifesto that they all had signed up for, and they then worked together to achieve those goals. And the public went to the polls and voted for those individuals on those goals. Now, you're
Mm-hmm.
quite right. Whether you're a member of a team, a party, it comes down to the individual. Because being a member of a party doesn't magically make you a good legislator, an effective representative, and if you get the opportunity to be a minister, an effective administrator. So you're very, very right that being a member doesn't just magically give you all of those skills. It comes down to the individual, right? I heard my niece, who was on a podcast the other day, and she made an analogy that is so apt for political representation. She said you should look at yourself in your life and think about, and I'm paraphrasing to put it in my own words, think about where you want to get to and choose the candidate. And it was like using an analogy of a bus. Choose the candidate who is going to get you closest to where you want to get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to set aside personality politics. I get people come up to me and say, "Oh, Raleigh, you're running again," and and then they start talking about others that are running. My thought process is very simple. I need to talk about all the great things that I did when I was Minister of Education, things that people are now advocating to come back and and talk about what my vision and others' vision is for the Cayman Islands and be a part of that solution. Because let's face it, if we look on any candidate that isn't recognizing that we have a major
Mm-hmm.
immigration crisis, we have a major cost of living crisis, and how does that dovetail into the CUC license and
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to do about that going forward? Any candidate that doesn't realize we have a housing crisis. We've been short on housing stock now for years, yet planning is still a bureaucratic nightmare that is causing major roadblocks to
Mm-hmm.
good housing getting to the people, getting on the market. Any candidate that doesn't recognize that we need to protect our environment, that is what we sell tourists. We sell tourists ourselves as people and the beautiful natural environment we have above the water and below the water. And so um, the point I'm making is the issues are going to be common across political platforms. People are going to
Mm-hmm.
be talking about very similar issues. But who do people believe has the strength of character, the professionalism to be able to be elected and then effectively participate in a team, a group, a party, whatever you want to call it, and be able to offer solutions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when I hear some of the stories that's coming out now about the most recent four members who resigned, and they start talking about a minister being in cabinet, and because there is opposition within cabinet to his cabinet paper, walking out of cabinet. Now, I wonder if 1,000 people
Mm-hmm.
were in the gallery looking on at that cabinet meeting,
Mm-hmm.
would that person have walked out? Right? So, you should be doing, when you get to that level of politics, your
Mm-hmm.
behavior needs to be such that the public is there because you're there to represent the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would, any member of the public that was there would have absolutely ridiculed that person if what we were told was true. But I draw the reference to what you were saying earlier, Sandra.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a member of a party or not, if
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that level of maturity and if you don't have that level of
Mm-hmm.
cohesion as a group, how in God's creation do we expect that we're going to get good governance? We're going to get effective governance and effective leadership. Because the truth is, before you even got to cabinet, You should have had a caucus that is
Mm-hmm.
mature enough, that is organized enough, that you would have discussed all of your issues, all of your cabinet papers, and made sure that you settled all those issues at that level. So that when you get to cabinet, really all you're doing is presenting your paper for the record and ensuring that that paper is passed, and you then deliver the policy priorities set out in that paper to the public, because that's our job, right? When you get elected, your job is to serve the people of the Cayman Islands. and
Mm-hmm.
and and so, for me, that is what I believe I personally bring to the table, is not only my prior experience, but having sat and worked now in the private sector for almost 12 years, and being blessed to have ownership of two of my own small companies, right? Being a CPA by profession, I've been blessed with a lot of things that others have not, right? I took advantage of those early opportunities in my life. I took advantage of the educational and professional opportunities that I had, and I made sure that I improved myself. And so, again, let's go back to your question, Sandra, of the who. You should be
Mm-hmm.
looking at people who can look you in the look constituents, electors in the face and say, here is what I have done. Here's what I've done as an individual that is going to prepare me for the rigors of being an elected member of parliament. That is one of the greatest honors in any country. And the fact is, we should be, as people, as electors, looking on and electing people, not necessarily people who've showed up and said, oh, here's a $25, here's a $50. Oh, you know what? We used to have some good times when we were little boys playing marbles or playing video games. It should be about people that you can feel confident are going to be able to deliver on the very promises. Because, listen, I outlined the major issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Candidates are going to be all parroting those issues. Who can deliver on them, Sandra? Who can
All right.
ultimately deliver on them?
So let's hold on a second now. We got a couple questions, and people are coming out. Listen, we tell people in this program to think critically. We want them to ask the tough questions, and so they've come straight out the barn asking you some very, very tough questions. Now, I do want to remind our listeners we do have somebody else scheduled to come on after Ralston, so we may have to cut him a little bit closer to the 8:30 minute, but we're going to get in as much as possible. So Cassius says Ralston was there when some of these issues were impacting us. Now he wants to come back again to do what exactly? People deserve what they get if they recycle these people. So how do you respond to Cassius saying that, hey, you were already there, you already had your chance? And somebody asked a similar question. What lessons have you learned? This is Miss Pat now saying, what have you learned from your previous political position? And what will you bring to address the issues in our country now? So what's going to be different, Ralston?
Those are great questions, and I thank your listeners for those questions. Firstly, in my first iteration, in my first term, I was a backbench member, so I learned quite a bit about just the runnings of the Legislative Assembly, not so much government, because if you're not a cabinet minister, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you hear what the ministers are saying, but you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
In my second term, I was in the opposition. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to then learn to operate on the fly, right? Because when you're in the opposition, the government runs the country and you are not in access to the critical information that ministers have, etc. And so
Mm-hmm.
then my last term, I had the opportunity to serve as minister. I say all that, Sandra, because a lot of times people believe, okay, if you've served 3 terms, that means you've been in charge for 3 terms. You've
Mm-hmm.
had, you've been in the driver's seat for 3 terms.
Mm-hmm.
I in effect, in my 12 years, was only a minister for 1 term. Now, get
Okay.
back to what were the lessons? My biggest lessons that I've learned is around ensuring that when when you're in public life, in public office,
Mm-hmm.
you have to ensure that you, as an individual, surround yourself surround yourself with the right types of people and a great team. I had some great people that taught me a lot of good things over my 12 years. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I've now stepped back and said, okay, I am going to do things very different in terms of I organize myself along with the support people that I'm going to have around me to ensure that I am not only always deeply connected, but also staying completely 100% focused on all the tasks at hand. Because the
Mm-hmm.
rigors of public life is great. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, yeah, it's a walk in the park. If it was a walk in the park, then the fact is, Sandra, the both of us wouldn't be discussing what we should be looking at as a in terms of a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having been out for 12 years, that's over a decade,
Mm-hmm.
given the experience that I bring to the table to be able to hit the ground running, what lessons have I learned? I've
Mm-hmm.
learned I've learned that you have to ensure that all of the people that you're going to be working with, they were going to be in lockstep. I knew that from before, but I've seen it even more now. I've learned that we, as elected representatives, have to be 110% upfront with the public all the time. The public has the right to know. And this whole business of secret deals and negotiating, etc., I've learned, look, the public is your friend once you come to the public and explain what you're doing and why. You won't get 100% support with everything you want to do. But if you come out and you're very, very clear and upfront, the majority of people are going to come along once what you're proposing is sensible. And now being on the private sector side, I have gotten to see a lot of the frustrations that people face when they're interfacing with central government and government authorities, and how we have to do a much better job at ensuring that not just elected representatives, but everyone who's a public officer understands clearly your job is to assist the public well, once it's legal, once it's ethical. I'll give you a simple story. I got a call about a lady who was traveling. She's going to be traveling with a family member, and so she's going on an extended stay. She's retired now. She's a retiree, a retired civil servant, and she has medication, important medication for her health, and she's going to be gone for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But the HSA's policy was that they would only dispense up to 30 days of medication. This lady was so frustrated and felt so insulted at the way she was treated
Mm-hmm.
by the customer service representative representing the agency that I had to get involved. I had to call people in upper management to assist that lady just to get her 2 months worth of medication. Why did I say that, Sandra? Those are critically important lessons because we need to ensure that people understand you're a public servant. If you are not willing, if you're not willing to be that, do that, carry out that role, then guess what? You should not be working in the public service. You should go and work in the private sector. Public service is very, very different than working in the private sector. And we must always remember we're there to represent and the interest of the public, and we're there to serve the public.
All right. So lots of questions coming in this morning. Again, we do have some limited time. So your short answer then, just to recap what you've said, is that really you were only in a ministerial position in one term and able to make a difference, a real effective difference during that time. Now we do want to, Ralston will be joining us in future shows. He's going to be coming on at least monthly now to really allow himself to be put to the test, because quite frankly, all of the candidates need to do this. And I will say, people who can sit here and take their licks are a lot different. And I'm going to talk about the event last night that was held. They're a lot different than people who refuse to even get put in the public eye, but yet they want a vote from you all. So it's very interesting how people will approach the situation. But we do have one comment here. Let me just read this one. So this person says they want to ask about your drinking, and we're going to address this. You know, if people are not able to come on the program and be honest about things that have impacted them professionally and even personal, but it spilled over because, you know, I just did a editorial vlog on why character matters. So you got to look at someone's pattern of behavior, the decisions that they've made with their lives, and why those things matter when you're considering them for political office. So this person mentioned that, which I think, in all honesty, a lot of people might have a question about where you are with your sobriety and those types of issues. And then they say, ask him if he's going to be joining up with McKeeva again, because West Bay doesn't want that at all. And if he runs with the PPM, he's done for because West Bay don't want PPM. And he needs to clear up that mess that he created called SciFec and let the children go to year 12. And since they are so young, do year 13 too. So let's take it one at a time, Ralston. Let's talk about the first one, which spills over into your personal life. We know that you have had, I think we can fairly say this, that maybe you've indulged a little bit too much when it comes to alcohol. What is your relationship with alcohol as of today's date?
So, Sandra, at the end of the day, one of the things that I made sure that I did for myself, and I'll be very public and frank about this, is I looked at the root cause of what I had done to myself, to my family, to those who loved me. And I tied it back to an experience that shouldn't have led to it, but it did. And it was around the death of a loved one. And Sandra, I can tell you and I can tell the world I went to counseling. And that was very, very important for me because what it did was it allowed me to get closure. To be frank, to be open, my mother died March the 24th, 2012. My first DUI was May the 22nd, 2012. And I'm not going to use that as an excuse. Let me be very, very clear. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I did that. Ralston Malachi Anglin did that. But the thing that I needed to do was take a big step back in my life and say, what's causing my change in behavior? And so I ensured that I dealt with myself first, dealt with myself as an individual. And so I don't abuse alcohol. What I did was, Sandra, I used to engage in what was called binge drinking. I would go out on a night and just drink. And a lot of people can relate to that because a lot of people are, function in life very well. And then if a stressful situation comes on, that's when they drink. That's when they do something they shouldn't do. And I can tell the world, and I can tell all men in Cayman, be brave. If you see yourself doing something, there are times where you're not going to solve it yourself. And there's nothing wrong with putting yourself to that test of look at the man in the mirror and do what you need to do as a man, as a father, as a member of this community. And so I'm happy to say that I am at a point in my life where I don't abuse alcohol or anything else. I have 5 wonderful children who rely on me. I have 2 companies who rely on me. And people will tell you I'm the first one in the morning, last one out in the evening, because that's where my priorities have been for several years. As it relates to political affiliations, Sandra, at this stage, I am running as an independent candidate. I have had discussions with various groups and trying to figure out, okay, what are going to be your priorities? How are you looking at the picture issues that we face? And I must say, I've found there's a fair amount of commonality when I talk to other members and other people who are going to be putting themselves up for office. And certainly, I I know myself and people know my record, public record, and I know that I can join any group and work very seamlessly within a group because I am a team player. I'm not that type of immature person who's going to say, "Oh, I'm going to take my marbles and go home. I'm going to take my video game console and go home" when things aren't going my way. Um, I think the other question, I don't remember what the fourth point was.
About SciFec. Let's table that because that is a bigger conversation around education. And definitely, as former education minister, we need to have a more in-depth conversation there. So let's table that one for now, because we need to understand what transpired. This person says that they're happy to hear that you actually went to counseling. Again, we talk about this ability to be independent minded, and yet even now other people are messaging me because you are being painted with a broader brush of, oh, well, is he going to be another McKeeva Bush, who also said, his sloppiness and bad behavior was because of deaths around him. So how do you differentiate, as someone who has been in McKeeva's camp for many, many years, and I guess I understand he's a cousin and former colleague, and I'm sure friend still, how do you differentiate yourself from someone like McKeeva Bush? Like, what makes you different than him? Like, we hear you saying, all right, I've had some issues, I've gone to counseling, but Mac has also feigned going to counseling, and he's no better for it. So tell us, when people are listening to you this morning, because they're asking me these questions and what's up, tell us what makes you different.
Well, what makes me different is the fact that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to answer first of all, I'm here and ready to answer the questions, and I'm not going to storm off. I'm not going to shy away. I'm not going to put the foot around the issue and make excuses. I'm not making any excuse. The first differentiation is when a person has an issue, do you run from it? Do you hide from it? Or do you accept and embrace it and accept the fact that the blame belongs to you? I own Ralston Malachi Anglin and everything that goes along with him. I own my past, and I own my past mistakes. And that puts me in a position to be able to have moved forward. And that's how you have to move forward. You have to own your issues. You have to own who you have been. Because if you don't do that, you will never be able to progress. You will never be able to get out of a cycle. I can't speak for any other individual, McKeeva included. I can only speak for Ralston Anglin. And so that's where I'm at, Sandra, and that's where I'm happy to say that my life is, and I am in a position where I can look myself in the mirror and feel very comfortable to come on a show like this and have those tough questions asked and be able to answer them truthfully and know that I am here to serve and to help move our beautiful country forward. This is about the service of the country. This isn't about Ralston Anglin's past. This is about service the country going forward and where we are. Where are we today? Today is the 20th of December, 2024. I can't change anything that happened before today. I can only affect what's going forward.
Okay. All right. We got a caller to the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Sandra. How are you?
Good morning, there. Good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm fine, and good morning to Mr. Angling as well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sir.
Thank you. Well, this is Armand everybody knows me, but quickly, I think we got a person that a gentleman, should I say, that needs to get back into the ring. I know him personally. He's a brilliant man, and if he use his intelligence in the right way, we should be more successful than we ever been. Having said that, some of the things that's going on here, and I'll say quickly, like what's happening at the public beach with all of these, it is posted, Jamaica's national coming in here and about selling alcohol and all kind of things. All you can hear, if it's not a Vesper, is a Caymanian. Why the hell are these not calling these people out by their name? Secondly, I will say right now, the guys that stepped out, Mr. Andre and the other three, yeah, they had to put on some brakes, how I see it, because the government that we have is too big to be told. That's the problem. And they had to put on emergency brakes someplace. So this is how I see that point. However, Mr. Anglin needs to, get in touch with the people and keep going. I think he'll be very successful. He's done so before, and he did a lot for the country as well. Whatever happened in his past, I'm sure he can step by that and do something more successful and forget about that, because no one is perfect. So I think that he has the intention of changing what has happened, and just put that behind him. And remember this: if it wasn't for a bad mind, some people wouldn't have a mind at all. So forget about that. Don't, just get on with your life, my friend, and I will support you. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. So yes, let me just see here now. So one person wants to ask you this question very directly. They said the question is, will he help put McKeeva in power again? Will you work with him? And if yes, what does that say to the women of this country?
Well, firstly, Sandra, let me be perfectly frank and upfront. We have a situation in this country where we're going to get 19 elected members. I can't predict exactly who that makeup is going to be. What I can say is that we have to move forward with new and fresh minds and ideas. Yes, I'd been there before, but over a decade of not being there, I am refreshed and coming with a new energy, a new approach. And so, to answer that question directly, no one can predict precisely how an election is going to turn out. What I can say is, I think the country has shown very clearly that the government of the part of which I was a part, which is now collapsed and therefore has doesn't exist, means that I am now in a position where I can make my own choices around how I interact and interface with all the elected members, whoever they may be come April 30th, God's willing. And so, Sandra, I get where the person is coming from, but the fact of the matter is, I am going to be in a position where I'm going to have to look carefully at exactly who gets elected. McKeeva himself has said, from what I can understand, and he certainly have said it to me over the years, but he said it publicly, that he does not seek to be in cabinet in the future. And I think he's looked at himself and realizes that that is certainly something that the country has told him loud and clear isn't in the cards. Now,
Well,
that's certainly my
let's be
interpretation.
honest now. He's not in cabinet now, but if you listen to the people who resign, they said he might as well be premier because he's running the show. So he doesn't necessarily need to be in cabinet to wield power. Let's put it that way. But Leanna says kaboom to the question about the protection of women. So in case it wasn't clear, and I know you have 3 daughters of your own, Ralston, in case it's not clear to you, the women in this country have had enough of misbehaving men and bad behavior, especially those in a position of leadership. And McKeeva has proven himself, and, you know, of course, he'll get all up in his feelings this morning, and I could give a rat's you know what, but he has proven himself to not have ever met the bar, and he continues to deteriorate. So we just want to make it clear to you and any other men or women out there who are seeking political office that y'all need to start thinking about and advocating for issues that impact women in this country. The average voter is a 53-year-old woman who is either a grandmother, has children of her own, has been subjected to sexual harassment and abuse. And so people like a McKeeva Bush, we want nothing to do with. Caller, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Anglin.
Good morning.
I think what the people want to know in regards to Mr. Bush, right? Yes, you can predict that he's going to get elected, but the question is, if he is elected by some unfortunate circumstances, if he is elected, and we all know how it works. It's a numbers game to form the government. So just be honest and say, look, if I have no other choice, I'll work with him. Or no, I won't work with him. Like we just want honesty. Are you willing to work with him if you have to? Or is it a thing that you're gonna say, no, I stand on my principles, and if I have to take a backbench position, I'll do that because I don't want to work with him. Like we want honesty. Especially as, like Sandra said, as a woman in this country who lives in West Bay West. We just want the truth.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you're the last man standing. This is the question. You're the last man standing between whether McKeeva Bush, whether you work with him, whether it's officially in cabinet or he gets put in as Speaker of the House again. Your vote determines whether it happens or not. How are you going to vote?
Well, Sandra, I have you quite right. I've said I have 3 daughters, and they have a major influence in my life. And my daughters have been very, very clear to me that no one who has any form of abuse and behavior as it relates to women do they want me to support. They've told me that. I have a 23-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 16-year-old. None of them are little baby children. So if I take the point that you just made, Sandra, that we now all get elected and we then have to put together, as it were, a government that is made up of differing factions. If I understand what the question is if there's a faction, so I'm the man in the middle. If there's a faction that says, look, this is the road we're going to go down, and one includes my cousin McKeeva Bush, or one includes the other, I have to look holistically at that group as well. So let me be clear, because let me just pretend now. Just suppose, let me give an example. Suppose the Dan Scott group gets enough seats, and I look on and I believe that their group has the best possibility to lead the country. But they come to me and they say, but listen, McKeeva's here. Or on the other side, I have another group that looks extremely weak and has McKeeva there as well. That would be tough, because then I have to look myself in the mirror, and then I have to look and think about the interests of Cayman. If it's something that difficult, what I can say is I would go back to the people who elected me and make them. So I would call a town hall meeting and say, here are my 2 choices. You have to help me make this decision because I see it as too close to call, as it were. Now, if it's a very
And
simple,
the third
but
option, which you haven't said, is you could just say, no, I'm not going to work with McKeeva Bush, and I'm going to sit on the back bench.
sure. So that's the point I was going to get to. And so suppose there's another angle to this that says, hold on. All you're going to do, Anglin, at Ralston, is you're going to be an effective legislator who has to be a backbencher, ride it out, be a good opposition member, because the opposition is very important in the country. That's the road I would take, right? I would simply take the road of, listen, I'm going to be an effective legislator for the people of West Bay North, explain to them the decision I was making and why. But in the first instance, I do believe on major issues as an elected representative, you do need to involve the people who've elected you if you do have an issue that is that too close to call, as it were. But bottom line answer is I'd ride the backbench.
All right. Priscilla said, honestly, it's a yes or no question. Leanna says, family or not, you need to know where to stand. 10 toes down on business whenever it comes to disrespecting a woman. It could have been your child.
Well, I just answered the question. I'd ride the backbench. But I wanted to, but Sandra, and I don't want to interfere, but I understand it, that he's a very polarizing individual, and there's going to be others who are going to be asked this question, right?
Yeah.
And the fact is, I do want the public to be aware as well, is that because we don't know the outcome, some of the people that they may vote for are going to have a very, very difficult scenario if it gets heated exactly the way that you just said it. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think that there's going to be a very clear opportunity for a government to be formed, for us to move forward. And we have to move forward in a new, fresh way in Cayman. It's that simple.
And let me remind the people of West Bay that really this becomes a non-issue if they go to the polls and they actually do the right thing. I mean, we're all here talking about, as voters in this country, as women in this country, we're all here talking about McKeeva Bush and how he always seems to finagle his way back in. Even last time, Wayne Panton did not want to work with McKeeva Bush, and yet he was brought to the table as the last person who could help them form their government. And I can tell you that despite his desire not to work with McKeeva Bush, he was pushed into that corner where he ended up putting him back in as a Speaker of the House. And as a typical Mac fashion, and I'm not trying to make this show about him, he once again proved what he is all about. So what we need to do, the proper way to neutralize this question, folks, and the voters of West Bay, please pay attention. The women, you need to go to the polls. You have got an option now that is running against Mr. Bush, a viable option. You need to go to the polls and make your check mark count so that we don't keep having this, hamster wheel of a debate about whether or not he gets into a position of power or not. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Turn off your radio, honey child. Hello. Uh-oh. Remember, turn your radio off when you call, because I think there's a little bit of a delay and a feedback. All right, Vanessa, good morning. Rashana says the real point is to vote Mac out, and that's the point that I'm trying to make. So Omeria says, the alignment with McKeeva Bush is strong. And, she feels like maybe you have not set an example for your daughters. So listen, he said that he has made his share of mistakes, and he has sought counseling, and he's changed his behavior. There are some people who've said that they can attest to the change in behavior. Miss Debbie says, I can attest that Ralston was the best education minister in my tenure. Civil servants in that ministry are not allowed to speak, but I can confirm that because she's no longer a civil servant. She said the civil servants during Ralston's tenure would agree. Let's see. Miss Deanna says, good morning. Sandra and Ralston, wishing you all the best for the holidays. My comment is this: we all make mistakes, but it's what we learn from them and how we move forward. We need, moving forward, government members to practice what they preach and be a good role model for our beautiful young people. Wish you all the best, Mr. Ralston. So let me just see. Shaka Zulu says, what does this potential candidate propose to do when approached by big money lobbyists?
Sandra, I don't live in the world where I deal with anybody called a big money lobbyist. I'm a CPA, and the people I surround myself with, and have always surrounded myself with professionally, are partners in accounting firms, etc. Those are the types of people that are not here in Cayman for anything other than the best interest of Cayman. They're not people who are going to be going around with politicians trying to get favor. What favors do they need? They're partners in big accounting firms, etc. I make sure that I surround myself with good, solid, ethical individuals. Always have, always will. Can't be bought, not for sale, can't be bought. I don't live in that space. That's just not going to be anything that I have ever done. But Sandra, to the point, right? Let's get back to the fact that, and you see how West Bay politics are, right? Today, and the fact of the history that I do have. And so I'm not going to run away from that part of my history either. But at the end of the day, there's a reason I'm running as an independent candidate. If that's not clear enough for most people who are looking on, I'm running in this election as an independent candidate because when I look at West Bay and I look at what people are telling me, people are saying to me, Ralston, you stand by yourself, and then you're able to then join with whoever is going to be a majority because you'll be able to work seamlessly with others. They've been very clear about who they think I should align with. And I can tell you that the majority of people on my committee are females. I don't
All
think I
right,
need to
we've
say
got
anything
another
more on
caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Sunday.
Morning,
Morning,
there.
Ralston.
Good morning.
I made comments, I guess a few moments ago. I did work with Ralston in the ministry I was in the ministry for 18 years, and I did work with him for 4 years. And I just want to really say, on that level as a minister, he was the best minister of education, and I've had 5 that we have ever had. I will reiterate what I said in my comments. I cannot speak for the other 20 civil servants that were employed during that time, but I can attest that they would echo my sentiments. When it came to, let's just say, doing speeches, you don't have to write a speech. You can write a speech for Ralston, but it comes right off. he has that knack. It's like phenomenal. He treated his staff. I think it's the way he treated his staff. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter where you were from. He made sure that he knew who you were, how your mother was, how your grandmother was doing. He just was the best minister we really had. And I just got up, so I'm kind of like out of breath. But I do have a question. And this is really, really important to me. How do you feel, Ralston, about what is happening with DART and the Barkas Beach? You know, the acquiring of the Barkas Beach is like really, really heavy on a lot of people's heart. And how do you feel about that?
So,
thanks.
yes. And I must say, caller, I'm going to let Ralston answer that. But one of the reasons why I haven't personally discussed this yet is I'm still on a fact-finding mission. Because what was put out in the public was, we think this is what this MOU is all about and what's happening, but we don't know. So I am still trying to get details on exactly what is going on with that situation, but I'll let Ralston respond to that.
Okay, well, you know that there was a town hall meeting in South Sound last night, right?
No, I said that at the beginning of the show. Nobody told me anything about that.
As I told you, I just tuned in.
Yeah. Nobody told me that was happening. It was a youth forum debate or something, I'm told.
It was a youth forum debate, right? Exactly, and my daughter attended, and there were a lot of young people there, and that question was posed by my daughter, and it was one of the last questions asked, and it actually brought a standing ovation, and I think it is on everybody's mind. I think it is very, very, like right now, that is going to make or break a deal when it comes to the voting public. What is happening to Barkas? Are we selling it out to DART?
All right. Do you know anything about this MOU, first of all?
Me, myself, personally?
No. I'm speaking to Ralston. Sorry.
I was trying to say hell no.
No. All right. Well, thank you for the question, and we'll let him answer it. Sorry, we'll let you answer it. And but my question is, do you actually know anything about it? Do you have any of the details? Because I'm still trying to get some details.
No, Sandra. I know what's out in the public domain.
Okay.
I have heard some other rumors. I have heard rumors that that there is a land swap, but the land swap is for lands somewhere in the Salt Creek area. Here's my point on this. Very simply, we are less than 5 months from an election. Why would we be having closed door negotiations with DART 5 months before an election? That's number one.
The last government, and just stick a pin, because let me give you a kaboom on that. The last government did this exact same thing. Last minute deals. That's how how they push through the dump deal and other things at the very last minute. The Asian jobs, the foreign office jobs, and the Auditor General took the time and wrote a report and said, governments should not do this. This should not be allowed to happen. No major deals, no major decisions, ahead of a general election. And yet this same government, who a lot of those members were like, yep, they're right. This same government led by a PPM stalwart is doing the exact same thing that the last PPM coalition government did. Caller, good morning.
Morning. Morning, Mr. Ralston.
Good morning.
I'm glad to see you put your hat back in the ring.
Thank you.
This last issue there about last minute deals. I have said from the very beginning that the majority in the House need to act like adults and form a new government, because lots of mischief can take place with a minority government. Given your insight into how governments function, what kind of potential damage do you think this government or any minority government could do to a country?
Say that again.
Yeah, I think he was frozen for a second. Just repeat the question.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, could you explain to us given your experience in government, what kind of damage a minority government can do to a country, because I feel that the majority in the House should have taken control of the government to prevent nonsense like this from happening. Because I mean, I wouldn't put myself in a category where I say no more than you about politics, but I understand a lot of the foolishness that can take place, and I think it's a really bad idea to have a minority government.
Minority governments are not ideal in any circumstance. You're 100% right there. But let me answer your question by saying this: whether you're a minority government or not, whether you're in a minority government or not, you should not be making last minute secret deals that involve public lands and or anything else. Listen, you're less than 5 months before the election, and so why would we at this late stage, because you know the old saying, when you do things in a hurry at the very end, what do you usually do? Make what?
Right?
Mistakes.
Make mistakes.
Mistakes. When you're doing stuff in a rush at the end, we've been there. We've all been there. You got something due at work, and it's crunch time coming, and you're hurrying to finish at the end, and that's when the typo gets into your email. That's when some small mistake that you ordinarily wouldn't make happens. And so, whether the land swap involves Barker's Beach, whether it involves somewhere up in Salt Creek or anywhere else, to come out to the public, because my understanding is this is purely a political ploy. The political ploy is, oh, let's go and say that we acquired some lands up in Barkers, so that now we can then get out and campaign and say, see, we saved Barkers, vote me back in. Why? Here's what I have to ask and commit for West Bay North. Why has nothing been done when he was in cabinet? If he was interested in saving Barkers, why wasn't this deal done the day that he got sworn in as a cabinet minister? When you could do this rationally, thoughtfully, come to the public and have a reasonable discussion to show that you're getting value for money. Because let's be clear about another thing. Whilst I, for one, see Barkers as that one of those last frontiers in Cayman, whatever government does, we still have to ensure we're getting value for money and that it's a good deal, right? We can't, because here's the other thing that can happen in life, and I know all of us can relate to this. Sometimes if a person, there's this one thing that a person wants and they really, really covets it. What do you normally can do to them? You normally can then take advantage of them because you know that this one thing that they want and that they will then behave irrationally about just so they can get it. And so ultimately, we must be not be about any secret deals, secret negotiations on the heels of an election. This is a time for, especially being in a position of minority government, where the government simply leaves the status quo and you get to the polls on April 30th and then let whoever the new government is take up major decisions, major deals that
Yeah.
needs to then be
Would
made.
you be?
That's what should be happening
Would
because
you
the
be?
other thing is, remember, there was a lot of fear or there was a lot of debate. Use. I shouldn't use the word fear. When the four resigned, that there was going to be an early election. That an election would have been called as early as January because everyone knew we would have a minority government. And so let me make sure another thing, because Sandra, one of the things that you probably will remember about me, at every point I try to make sure that we're bringing all of the public along. When we talk about a minority government, I want your listening audience to understand this is when you have a legislature, and in our instance, 19, but we have a cabinet that at that point in time does not have enough backbench support to have at least 10 members, because 10 members would then be able to pass legislation in the Legislative Assembly because they are the government. 8 ministers, and it would be two backbenchers at that point. And so at this stage, that's why they're calling it a minority government, right? But yeah, that I hope that answers the question, caller.
It does say quite a bit. But would you be willing to support legislation to prohibit secret deals of government?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. What I think that we should be looking at on that point, and I know we're going to go down in the weeds a bit Sandra, is there are certain things that cabinet, right? Any cabinet, this will be after the next election and into the future. There are times where cabinet has to operate and protect the Cayman Islands. And in doing that, there's certain information that isn't going to be made available during certain stages of whatever you're doing, whether it's just purely legislation or what have you. But once you get to the point where you are close to a decision, there's no reason, just like you have to put out legislation for 21 days, there's no reason why any major decision that involves lands, etc., that we shouldn't have a situation where that too gets put to the public before it goes final.
All right, we've got another call on WhatsApp. Thank you, Denny. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Hello? Hi, caller. Hello? All right, can't hear you there, unfortunately. Try again. Sometimes the WhatsApp connection is a little bit spotty. Let me see here. So someone is just asking you to confirm exactly which constituency you're running in.
So, Sandra, thanks for that question. So I'll be running in the constituency of West Bay North. I also wanted to do a quick shout out to say that tomorrow we're having a children's Christmas party by the teacher Al Park opposite the lighthouse. And we certainly welcome all the children in West Bay North, and indeed, I know there's going to be a lot of children from West Bay general and just Cayman, just children, right? I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I'm running in a constituency, but when it comes to kids and our future, look, I'm about everybody. So I know that there's going to be a good turnout, but certainly I'm looking forward to having a lot of children there. We're going to have a bouncy castle. We're going to have Santa on hand. We're going to also be raffling off some bicycles to hopefully brighten the Christmas of some of our young children and young people, because it's children of all school age.
And what time is that event tomorrow?
3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay. All right. We've got a caller in the line. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Ralston. Good morning, Cayman.
Good morning.
Happy holidays to everyone. I just wanted to call in and to say that everyone has a past. Everyone has made mistakes, but it's us individuals to correct our mistakes, learn from them. And we always say, pull those big patties up and straighten those shoulders up and then move forward without having to repeat those mistakes. So I just wanted to throw that out there first and foremost. But in regards to Ralston and when he was education minister, I can certainly attest to him, and I can say, and I've written to say, Ralston has been, from the day that I could vote in the Cayman Islands, Ralston he has proven to be the best education minister in the Cayman Islands over the past 4-5 terms of election. And I can say that because, and I saw other former PTA presidents commenting in this morning in regards to that. When he was minister, I was PTA president at John Gray High School. Ralston has been the only minister that has actually brought all of us, the PTA presidents, together and even asked us to form a national PT parents teachers organization. He was the only one to sit down and listen to us. And I can assure you, if he was still the minister, the mess that we have going on right now in our schools, where literally our schools, there's some schools in the Cayman Islands that does not have not one indigenous Caymanian teacher inside of it, we would not be in the mess that we're in. And in fact, the 3 young ladies that came back in September and had to go and work, they were forced to go and work in Cayman Prep and in Catholic schools, even though they went through government scholarships and they're fully qualified to come back to teach in primary schools. They would be reaping what everybody else is reaping, even now for the Christmas season with the bonuses, payout, and everything else. But they were forced to go and work somewhere else, even though us, the people, sent them away and educated them. So, Ralston, I wish you luck, and I want to say that you were the best then, and I'm sure it don't matter when you come back, what role you are in, you will do us well and you'll do us proud. So thank you.
All right, my dear. Thank you very much. All right, two more comments and then we're going to wrap things up here. We have Magdalene says, when I served as PTA president for Georgetown Primary School, he was the only minister who was willing to meet with us as a body. I would also say that he was the minister that changed the plan from the school, from another expensive school plan put forward by the PPM to what they have now, which I would say is a school fit for purpose. So great decision by him. I think he's a good fit for West Bay. We also have Marissa saying West Bay North is happy that Ralston has chosen to get back in the political arena. You are supported, hashtag West Bay North, hashtag needs change, hashtag Ralston Anglin. Magdalene also agreeing with Miss Marva just now, saying that she agrees with that. Firing says kaboom to that caller. Mr. Anglin was an excellent minister. And Marissa saying, I second that, Marva. He was indeed the best education minister. Kaboom on that. Caller, final comment or question of the day.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Good. Yes. I want to comment because, I'm not that familiar. I know Ralston. But one thing I know is there are other people with past that's been there, done things. And, I've heard people say that he's helped them. And sometimes the people that has been down some roads is the best people sometimes because they learn from where they're coming from and they know where they're going and they want to do better because they now understand. And I think that everybody past should be forgiven. They should be given a fair chance. And we need the people that is for the people, the Caymanians, that is going to look out for the teachers that go away like that. Like those that I heard the other callers saying they have to go and teach in a private school. That should not happen because the problem we have in our schools, some of the kids don't even understand some of the people that are teaching them. So that's why they're failing. We got, I'm not knocking down on a nationality, but we got people that the kids cannot understand when they're speaking or when they're teaching. And these are bright students that had a future, but because of the language barrier, the teachers they're given, it makes a big difference. When we had the Jamaican teachers like Miss Howell, God bless her soul, Miss Evans, Miss Taylor, all of those, Miss Tressida, the kids came out blooming because they took and put effort into us. If we were short of something, they would call their parents or do whatever they had to do with us. These teachers just come, they teach. God bless if they put the effort into the children. So I think that everybody deserve a second chance. So nothing is wrong with Mr. Ralston running. And if he was good in that department, we need somebody in that department because they're the future of tomorrow kids. So we do need somebody in that department. So kudos to him if he can come and turn it around because it's not too late. We're still alive. So there's hopes for us. So I pray that the people of Cayman Islands, they choose not who they like, but those that really are inspired to make a change in our islands.
Thank you very much.
Have
Appreciate
a good
it.
weekend.
Thanks.
Okay.
You too.
Bye.
All right, folks. So, that will be the final question for Ralston. We do have another guest waiting to come in. So Ralston, I appreciate you coming onto the program. Lots more questions came in, but what I would like to say, folks, as I indicated before, December the 1st was our kickoff season for the electoral, season, if you will. But there's a lot of candidates who are not ready. And I'm not here to hold anybody's hand and to placate anyone. As you see, you come in the program, you better know how to swim already because we're throwing you in on the deep end and you got to be able to hold your own. So appreciate Ralston understanding the rules. We feel the questions and he's here to answer them. He will be on. He's one of the people who's committed to coming on a regular basis. So yes, he will be here. It is his time, so he can choose if he wants to focus on specific areas. I, of course, will guide any candidate who's coming on who wants to know what the pulse of the community is. They're very, very specific things. I think we need to take a deep dive into some of the major issues facing this country. So we need to have dedicated conversations on education, the cost of living, housing, immigration. There are some big items here that we need to definitely discuss. So for those of you who sent in questions that we couldn't get to today, please ensure that you keep those questions handy and that you are going to be, ready to submit those when Rolston comes back. So this person says to the older lady caller, yes, it's okay to give second chances, but no more chances to people who have shown themselves for years and years. The voting public needs to remember that the election is a job interview, and this time we're not playing around. So general comment there for sure. So this person says the best indicator of future behavior is past relevant behavior. I think Rolston, personal issues aside, has demonstrated in his previous tenure as an MLA MP, Rolston Anglin for West Bay North. But again, character matters. So Rolston, we would not be here having an honest conversation with you if we didn't say that some of your past mishaps give people pause. And of course, you have addressed that this morning in terms of what you say you have done to rectify those issues. So people, you can't separate when you're in the political arena. I hate to tell you this in case you haven't gotten the memo, but you can't really separate because character matters. It goes back to that underpinning theme here. You can't separate the decisions that you make in your personal life and then the decisions that you make professionally, because as you see, there's always overlapping, and it flows over into both areas. So Rolston's having an event tomorrow. Just reminder listeners, particularly those in West Bay North, of exactly where and when that event will be.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. And so we're having the West Bay North Children's Christmas Party. It's going to be at the Teacher Al Park, which is opposite the lighthouse in Boatswain Bay. It's from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Santa will be there. We'll have a bouncy castle. There'll be a lot of food, a lot of enjoyment for our children. And we're also going to have a free bicycle raffles. We're going to be raffling off some bicycles, 15 bicycles, in fact, to 15 lucky children. It's for school age children, the raffle that is. And I look forward to just having a good time. Sandra, when God blesses us professionally, and I've been a blessed and a human being, there are times where you just have to give back, and a part of your community activism is purely political, but there's also times where you have to just give back, have fun, and ensure that others are benefiting. And so that's the aim of the Children's Christmas Party. Tomorrow, 3 to 6 p.m., Teacher Al Park, opposite the lighthouse in Boatswain Bay.
All right. Well, thanks very much. So go out, young children, and have a good time. 'Tis the season. Rolston, we appreciate it. We'll have future dates booked with Rolston, and we'll let you guys know when he's coming onto the program. And, we wish you a very Merry Christmas, Rolston, and Happy New Year.
Yep. Merry Christmas, Sandra, to you and all of your listeners. Happy New Year's and God's richest blessings to us in the Cayman Islands.
All right. Appreciate it. All right, folks. So we do have another, he's not a candidate. He's a sitting member of parliament that's coming up now. Let me just say this. A number of you have said that we're going to just pause the calls for just 1 second, call. I'm going to come back to you. By the way, big shout out to Flo. We finally have a toll-free number courtesy of Flo. If you are a Flo customer, you can call us now free of charge on the 936-2626 number. But a lot of you were talking about the youth forum last night, which was, wrong. Hold on, this one, which was sponsored by the Alex Panson Foundation. So we appreciate that. Again, we didn't know anything about it. I wish you guys had told us, because we certainly would have been there. So this person had the following comment to make, which they sent me in the wee hours of the morning. As you can see, at 12:45 a.m., they were messaging me. I'm glad to say that for a change, I was actually sleeping. I'm taking some new medication for my foot. It puts me to bed a little bit earlier, which is probably not a bad thing. Finally getting some rest. So this person says, Dear Sandy, the youth-led political debate was tonight. Kenneth Bryan, Sabrina Turner, Andre Ebanks, Jordan Rivers, and Julie Hunter were all part of the debate. McKeeva Bush confirmed that he was coming, but didn't show up. Hunter Walton also confirmed and canceled half an hour before the event started. It was open to all MPs and aspiring MPs running next year. I couldn't help but notice Dr. Sylvia Wilkes in the crowd, who's allegedly running for election, and Peanut Gary Ruddy. Should we not be hearing from them, or are they not running again? So I don't know if there's been any changes with those individuals. Dr. Sylvia Wilkes has posted on social media that she's running, but I personally have not heard anything from her. So I don't know if she's still of that mind or not, to be quite frank and honest. Now, I am disappointed, but I shouldn't be, that people like McKeeva Bush, 40 years in political office, would confirm that he's coming and simply not even show up, not send apologies, no excuse whatsoever. Hunter canceling half an hour before the event. Well, I mean, things happen, so I don't know why he canceled. But again, some people are just not ready, and we need to recognize when someone isn't ready. Magdalene says also that Dr. Frank was in the audience. And again, I don't know if Dr. Frank is intending to run again, but, you know, I guess we'll hear more. All right, so let's go ahead and welcome. This person's anxious to get on. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, child.
Good morning. Mr. Ralston has left the studio, so I don't know if you had a question for him, but he's no longer here.
I'm trying to figure out. So was the dismantling of the middle school was done on this?
All right. So listen, we're gonna have a segment on education, so you can sort of table that question, and we're gonna come back to him and give him an opportunity specifically to respond to that.
That would be awesome.
All righty.
I would like to see you child all of those that are running to have whole public meeting where they can be questioned. What is their intention? How about cutting that paycheck? If that paycheck was to cut, would they still be interested in running?
All right.
Because obviously what we got going in there, not doing anything, just for the pay.
Thank you, my dear.
Okay, darling.
I appreciate it. But I can tell you one person who's not there for the paycheck. I feel confident in testing for that. That's our next guest. None other than Mr. Wayne Panton, who is the Member of Parliament for Newlands. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sandra. Can you hear me?
How are you?
Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Good, perfect. Good morning again. It's a pleasure to join you and your wonderful audience.
Yes.
Whether they're in our wonderful Cayman Islands or somewhere else in the world, as is often the case.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I know you have been the one sort of regular face on the program throughout the 4 years. And I got to give you a little joke. There's other candidates and so forth who've met with me and they've said, you know, I want to be like Wayne. I want to do what Wayne does. And I said, well, anybody can do what Wayne Panton does in terms of being a regular feature on the program. You just got to commit to it and show up. And I know everybody's busy because I know even for yourself, you've been meaning to come on now for the past month and life happens and things happen. And then you had Parliament. So that took up some of your time. I know this morning, poor you had an emergency with a dog. I mean, you're always here, there and everywhere, helping out a lot of people and a lot of things going on. But we appreciate you once again, taking the time to come on the program. Lucky Body says, make Wayne premiere again. So I think there's a lot of people who appreciate you, even just being there, just showing up is so incredibly important. But I know that there's a lot going on, Wayne, that you certainly want to discuss here on the program today. So where shall we begin? Shall we talk about the recent parliamentary session, and perhaps you can bring us up to speed on what has happened there and what bills you thought were significant that passed, and where are we now legislatively?
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you what. I do want to take a couple of minutes first before we get into that. To first of all, as I was reminded yesterday by someone on another who called into another media show that I was on. It is Christmas, and everybody would love to have just a chat about wishing each other Merry Christmas and all the best for the holidays. And yes, absolutely, you can't forget that is really important to us. Unfortunately, there are other things that are going on that are being sort of imposed on us that we do have to talk about. But very quickly, I just obviously wanted to start off by saying Merry Christmas to everyone. And I hope that everyone has a very safe and healthy and happy Christmas holidays with their family and can take the time to really enjoy their company. And you know, it's quality time that really matters. Even in our busy lives, we have to find the time for our families, particularly in this role. You know, in politics, it's your families that really tend to suffer the most, with you being away quite often and being involved with everybody else in the community. But I wanted to also acknowledge a person who is, apart from my family and you know, my wife and my son, who is very supportive. There is a lady who I want to acknowledge as being someone who's very important to me and very important to many people in Cayman, because she has done so much to help so many people from our country who need to go to typically Florida, to the Tampa area, the Hillsborough County area, for medical treatments. She has opened her house to many people. She's taken people in. She acts as their Uber driver. She acts as their patient advocate. She interacts with the doctors. She helps them to understand what's going on, and she brings her heart and soul, and has brought her heart and soul for, I think, I'm sure it's probably 20 years now, or maybe not that much, but it's a very long time that she has been doing this and helping our fellow Caymanians in this area. And I'm talking about a lady named Jan Lawrence. She, as we all do from time to time, she now has her own health challenge, and she's just had major surgery in Tampa, and I really wanted, I know she listens to your show. I hope that someone nearby in her room has turned the show on, because I want to take the opportunity to tell her how special she is to me and to my family, and to so many, I'm sure it's hundreds of people in the Cayman Islands, that she has been, you know, a mother to, a friend to, an advocate for. In fact, I know your earlier guest, you know, his mother, when she was ill, she spent a lot of time with Jan. Jan is a very, very special person. She is like our you know, our Joan of Arc, our Lady Teresa in that area of Florida, who really cares, loves our Caymanians, our fellow Caymanians, and does so much for them. And I just want to recognize her this morning, and I want all of us to, you know, to keep her in our prayers and our thoughts as she goes through this current challenge, because she's a very special lady. You know, she's the daughter of our former speaker, Miss Mary Lawrence. She is someone that is, you know, she's Caymanian through and through, up and down. She's a Bodden Towner. The only reason she has not been able to spend a lot of time back home, which is where she wants to be, is she has a condition which causes her to be at risk for blood clots flying. So many times she has said to me, come up to Florida in a boat and pick me up and bring me home, you know, because I want to visit. But anyway, Jan, we love you, and you know, we're praying for your full recovery and full healing. So with that, yes. Now we did have obviously a session of Parliament. We had a whole range of bills that were discussed, debated, and passed. there were a number of bills dealing with financial services. I think it was around 14 or so. Those bills were dealing with the basically fees in relation to financial services products, and those were about revenue raising. A lot of the fees in relation to that hadn't been revised or reviewed in a very long time. You know, most in excess of 5 years, some quite a few in excess of 10 years. So it was appropriate to deal with those. And then we had a few others, including an amendment to the Traffic Act, amendments to the Traffic Act. We had a bill which moved the public transport unit from within the Traffic Act and created it under a bespoke, a separate standalone piece of legislation. And that was also the case. Sorry, what was it? The second one. We also had a piece of an amendment relating to the basically OFREG legislation, which was a ratification provision. I wasn't able to speak in relation to that or vote in relation to that because I do have a conflict and I follow the rules. The other element in a group of bills that were that we dealt with related to the social side of things, the social development and support side. So we had the Children's Act amendment. We had the Older Persons Amendment Act amendment bill. We also had a wholesale repeal and replacement of the Adoption Act, which I think was critically important as well. So all of these things really were around improving the condition and the laws and provisions around protection of those in our society who are most vulnerable, and that is our children and our elderly. And I would like to be able to say that that throughout our society or across our society there's a recognition of the value of children and our responsibility as individuals, as parents, and collectively as society in relation to raising our children well and protecting them and making sure that they have what they need and that they're protected from abuse or harm. But we all recognize that that's not the case all the time. So we need to have strong provisions around that to ensure that they're well protected. We also had the entirely new adoption law, which would be brought in once that bill is commenced, and that's another thing which is really important, because for many years we've had the older version of the Adoption Act and our adoption laws. It wasn't before, and we've tweaked around with a little bit of it, but it really needed to be properly reestablished on a strong foundation, because we have many children that need to find safe, caring, loving, nurturing homes in the country. There are many people who, either because they just want to have the opportunity to share the immense love and means and support that they have with others, with other children, or they can't have children of their own, so they need, this is their way of really having that opportunity to be the incredible parents that they otherwise would be if they had the opportunity to do it in a natural way. So this legislation, streamlined both adoptions locally as well as intercountry adoptions. Both ways, actually, if Caymanian children were being adopted in another country and vice versa. And what I wanted to say in relation to this, which was interesting, is that all of this came out of two separate ministries. Both there were financial services related stuff primarily. As I said, there was a traffic and a public traffic amendment and a public authority, public transport unit bill. And these things, aside from those particular ones, you had the financial services stuff and you had the social development and social support stuff. And those came out of two wonderful ministries that work really hard, that care immensely, and have been engaged in this work for the last 2+ years, including a lot of public consultation, a lot of stakeholder meetings, and this type of engagement. We had, in relation to the older persons, we also had the older persons council, which is headed by Ms. Lucille Seymour, and she's a huge advocate for the interests of older persons. So all of these people came together over time and put their efforts towards amending legislation and improving the framework, being able to deliver better services. And these all of this stuff came out of two ministries that was headed by my friend MP Andre Ebanks from West Bay. And it is really amazing that you can have someone who is capable of being on the industry side and being a strong advocate, strong representative, and then also have the social development side, the softer skills, the ability to recognize and promote the interests of our people who are most vulnerable and are more likely to need the strong framework to support them and to provide assistance to them. So it was gratifying to be able to be in Parliament and deal with those pieces of legislation. It's a reflection on that ministry and the wonderful people that work there. That ministry is headed up by Ms. Tamara Ebanks as the chief officer, and there are some really incredible people in that ministry that work really hard every day to make the lives of Caymanians better. Of course, on the financial services side, you had Dr. Dax Vastale, who is another Caymanian who is really an incredible civil servant as well, fighting for the interests of our country all the time on the financial services side. So I really wanted to just quickly talk about those and say that was, it was very gratifying to be able to engage and see that work coming to fruition in the form of these various amendments and new legislation to support those that are most vulnerable. Of course, we have some other things going on relating to government, and I would love to just be talking about, extending Merry Christmas wishes to everybody and having a wonderful and enjoyable time, and talking about all of our initiatives in our communities. I recently did or Miss Heather Bodden and I recently did the sort of Santa Claus drive around and delivery of gifts to our children in our respective communities of Newlands and Savannah. We had on Monday night, we just had the seniors party, which was absolutely wonderful as well at Pedro Castle on the grounds there. That was just phenomenal. It's always phenomenal to have any event at Pedro Castle, but that was really phenomenal as well. And it'd be great to just have to talk about these wonderful things, but of course we do have issues that are being brought to the fore by concerns around things that are happening with government. And we've recently had this memorandum this MOU, or memorandum of understanding, announced by government, where they were announcing the formation of a civil service led committee, as it should be, to negotiate with the DART organization in relation to settlements around the regen project and claims around that. Where it's concerning is that MP Kathy Ebanks Wilkes for West Bay Central asked some very relevant questions in Parliament, and she did not get, I think, in relation to that, she didn't get any satisfactory answer at all. And in fact, there was one point where, she asked the question of the minister, Minister Seymour, as to what was going on. Why are we extending the termination agreement when the by its terms, the termination agreement and all of the provisions under the project agreement would have required just a payment to the DART organizations for the whatever monies they had spent on the landfill remediation, and they hadn't been reimbursed or compensated. Suddenly it's turned into an extension of the agreement, and then there's indications of negotiations going on in relation to some claim that was supposedly outstanding from the what was called the NRA agreement, which was several administrations ago, probably, but definitely more than 10 years. And then, there's discussions about, or indications about possible discussions around swapping land in Barkers, and possibly also swapping land in Crown land in the Salt Creek area. And this is all, when you have a situation where a question is asked and the response is a very, very long silence, and then some sort of mumbling of I don't understand the question, or I'm confused, or well, I think maybe we can accept that there's always confusion there, but to avoid answering the question by just providing a blank look, and then have a situation where days later you have an announcement of this MOU and this announcement of this committee being established in order to negotiate these things. Clearly the negotiations were being conducted by somebody else prior to and it's obviously not appropriate to have ministers sitting around the table negotiating with third parties on this type of thing.
Can I just pause you there for a minute? This came up, the question was posed when Olson was on as well, about exactly what this deal is. And, I haven't been in a position to say much about it because I'm still on a fact-finding mission about this MOU. But the one thing that definitely, makes me pause and gives me grave concern is that we saw with the last PPM-led administration, there was a lot of things done in the months leading up to the election. I mean, right up until the 11th hour, like 11:59, they were still signing deals and doing things.
The project agreement for the Regen project was signed on March 25th, 2021, 3 weeks before the election.
Exactly. And the Auditor General, there was the fiasco with the foreign offices. They gave themselves severance packages and pay raises, like they changed that law. And I know that when your government went in, one of the first things you got hit by was trying to find money to fund a lot of the things that they had signed on for, including the MP pay increases. And the public didn't understand that was something the last administration had done at the last minute. And they were actually blaming the PAC government for that. But the Auditor General actually took the time to analyze some of these things, do a report that said, listen, in the 6 months, there should be some sort of legislative change where in the 6 months leading up to an election potential change of government, likely change of government, we should not see any big deals being signed. We shouldn't see the elected arm doing agreements of significant magnitude where they're trying to tie the hands of future administrative governments. And yet we see this current government, this UPM government, doing the exact same thing that the Auditor General said the PPM did last time. She advocated legislative changes, said this is something that should not be done. Good governance, it doesn't reflect good governance. And here we are again.
Yeah, so there are two concerns around that. I mean, one is we put in place a new policy and provisions around what is called the election sensitivity period, where you should not be engaging in anything in a run-up to an election, which is, as you say, going to bind the country and bind a new government to something that they had no input on and may not reflect their policies at all. And certainly may not reflect the wishes of the people of the country as indicated by the result of the elections. And that has been put in place now. I think that was done in early 2023. But it is not as far out as 6 months. It is a couple of months out from an election. But the other point in relation to this is that when you have a situation that you currently have with government, which is a minority government, which it does not have a mandate from the people. It does not have the support necessarily of the rest of Parliament. It does not have the ability of its own volition to call Parliament, to have meetings of Parliament, and to pass anything on their own if the opposition chooses to vote against it. And what we have had is an indication from the majority of Parliament, majority of the opposition of Parliament, and I say a majority, I mean, I can certainly say that I know what the position is of all members of opposition, except perhaps one that I haven't had any specific conversations with, and I haven't heard them express a particular view publicly. That is not sufficient because you need 10 members to have a quorum to hold Parliament. And of course, the government is a 7-member minority government at this point. So they rely on the opposition, official and otherwise, to be able to have a quorum and to hold meetings of Parliament. And the majority of Parliament has either indicated we are only going to support you in relation to things that are necessary for the country, and or things that are not controversial. So that means that, you know, any sort of other promises that they have made to other people, to other groups, anything that they think that they would like to do, but is not technically necessary for the continued operation of government for the next period of time until the elections, immediately after the elections on April 30th, or on April 30th. And anything which isn't necessary to continue the business of government, continue the services to the people of the country that they're getting currently, that shouldn't be brought to Parliament, because, you know, either it's because it's unnecessary and or because it's controversial. But we do have very clear indications, and I don't know yet, I haven't checked this morning, but it seems that the government, this minority government, is intending to bring very highly controversial things to Parliament. There has been no indication of anybody or why they feel that they're in a position to do this, because there's, based on public statements previously, nobody in the opposition, an insufficient number in the opposition, have clearly indicated that they're not going to support anything that isn't doesn't meet the qualifications of necessary and non-controversial. And they're proposing to bring at least two things based on the statements that have been made publicly and statements that are made in Parliament. They're proposing to bring two pieces of legislation which are very controversial and have been controversial for a very long time now.
And which two were you talking about here?
Those two things relate to, it seems, a proposed amendment bill in relation to the National Conservation Act and a referendum bill which would deal apparently with the issue of a cruise port in Georgetown Harbor. Secondly, the decriminalization of marijuana, and thirdly, the concept or proposal for a state-run lottery. I don't know what work has been done around any of this recently. I can tell you that my position, I should say, in the past was that I didn't need a survey, a referendum to consider implementing things like decriminalization of marijuana, which simply means that the criminal consequences of possession of small amounts and consumption of small amounts would be removed. It doesn't mean that you're legalizing marijuana in any way. So, for example, someone who is convicted of possession of a one spliff or consumption of marijuana, it isn't going to be something which is reflected on their criminal record. There can be other consequences. There can be administrative consequences. There can be fines, but it's not going to result in those qualified areas, which aren't clear yet because we don't know. It's a conceptual thing at this point, but we have a lot of guidelines from around the world as to how to do it. But the point is that it wouldn't end up on your police record, which has in the past impacted many young people, and we have to recognize.
Can I just interject something there? And I think this is where maybe our legislators sometimes are not in touch with the practicalities of what happens on the judicial side of things, because I sit in court all the time. And I can tell you that the law has been in place now for quite some time that allows the judges to exercise quite a significant amount of discretion when it comes to community orders. So no one who is found with a spliff of marijuana, as you say, for personal use is going to jail anymore. And every single magistrate, if it's a simple amount, gives them an opportunity to also have a clear record. They utilize those extra powers. So I've always wondered why this was even a potential referendum issue, and why it's been given so much energy when in practice, those things are already being done. So the magistrates, you will hear them say, the first question they're going to say is, young man or young woman, do you have a problem with marijuana? And the person can say yes or no. And if they have a problem with it, there are counseling services and rehabilitative services that they will sign them up for. If they say, nope, I was just having a little smoke, whatever, and there's no problem, then fine. We need to routinely drug test you for a period of time. We need to demonstrate that you're going to be clean. We're going to give you community service. We're going to, make you do certain things, but then it doesn't go on your record. So I feel like in practice, we're already there. And maybe our legislators are not aware of this, and now they're going to amend the legislation to catch up to what the judges and the magistrates are already doing.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, there always has been significant potential for judicial discretion in these things, but I think it could be helpful to have clarity around that in terms of decriminalizing the consequences of possession of small amounts. So that's one of the proposed questions, it seems. We haven't seen any of the draft stuff yet. And the other one is the question around having state-run lotteries, which to me, my position has always been in that let's do the work, let's assess whether it's worthwhile doing it, and then see whether government wants to engage in that. We know we have a lot of illegal gambling that goes on. We had amendments to the gambling law about 2 years ago now, which didn't get past the select committee because certain members just wouldn't commit to coming to the meetings. And many other countries deal with utilize select committee to actually produce good legislation and good results. But it seems that we've had a practice here for many years in this country where select committees where you send a bill to die. Nobody commits to showing up to the meetings. Anyway, I think those two questions are really just cover to dilute the focus in relation to the other one, which is this proposed cruise port, which is so vague as it appears to be being discussed. Is so vague because there's no specific proposal. There's nothing around costs. There's no indication of whether they intend to do another environmental impact assessment, even if it's necessary, or whether they have some clarity around specifically what the proposal is. It just seems to be some very vague question, which to me is sort of pointless, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it's going to pass at all, but I think it is pointless even if it did pass, because it's not binding, and people are being asked to vote on something that is completely vague. The thing.
If you have a question, can I just pause you for 1 second there and stick this question in there? Because this relates directly to this point. So the person says, morning, may I ask Wayne a question? On the Talk Today show, it was mentioned that controversial bills may come to Parliament in January of 2025, for example, amendments to the National Conservation Act. However, Parliament cannot meet without a quorum. Is it better for opposing members to not show up to Parliament so that quorum is not met, so that business cannot proceed? Or is it better that all MPs show up to work that day, form quorum, and strongly argue against the controversial bill?
Well, it depends on a number of things. I mean, clearly it is open to members to not show up and not, so that the government does not have a quorum. But the government is not going to publish a bill that is controversial and indicate that they're going to come to bring it to Parliament unless they have some indication from somebody, and in this case, possibly the official opposition, that they're going to support it, that they're going to show up to form quorum in order to debate it. So, if that happens, then those members who do not agree with this and think that it is not a matter that fits with the conditions of necessary and not controversial, those members who do not agree with that, they're going to have to show up and yes, fight and debate the thing. But the first position should be that the government should feel that they don't have the necessary support in order to bring something that isn't necessary and something that is controversial. They shouldn't have that support at all. So my main concern right now is, why do they feel that they have the ability to bring this? Because they can only do it if they have confidence that they can rely on members of the opposition to form the quorum. And I'm pretty sure that neither myself nor the four members that left government earlier a couple of months ago agree with that approach. The official opposition in the form of the PPM have indicated that they're not supporting anything which is controversial. So it leaves the question wide open how is it that who has given the government confidence that they can bring something that is controversial and is not necessary? And Sandra, as you know, I have stated numerous times on this show that proposals to amend the National Conservation Act have nothing to do with what is in the best interest of this country, have nothing to do with what is good governance in this country. What it is an initiative which reflects a worrying level of corruption in this country. You have a small group of people, a cabal of developers, who it seems that elements of this government and I would have to say the whole government that remains are willing to support. They're willing to support their demands and their insistence that this go forward in circumstances where they cannot justify it at all. They cannot justify it as being necessary. It is highly controversial, and it is completely inappropriate to try to achieve. Now, I've said before that one of the things that I know they're going to be trying to achieve, just because I know this law and I know the issues inside out, they are going to try to remove the requirements for environmental impact assessments, either generally or in relation to government projects, or to give Cabinet the ability to waive an environmental impact assessment for anybody, for any project in this country. And to be honest, we have some major projects that significant elements of this country who want to see these big investment opportunities for themselves are proposing that would absolutely require an environmental impact assessment. And despite its name, an environmental impact assessment is not just about the environment and assessing the impact and working out whether you can avoid those impacts or mitigate those impacts. It is very significantly also about the social and economic impacts of a proposal. And that's where it is critical to get all of these issues clear, the impacts clear, and the things that need to be done to ensure that the outcome that's desired and the positive impacts that are desired are actually achievable. And it's also very relevant to the question of costs of the project as well. And I am absolutely astounded that any government today can take the position that they should be able to waive, without having any expertise themselves, they should be able to waive an environmental impact assessment, or decide that an environmental impact assessment is not necessary, when that is a core aspect of good governance. And countries around the world have implemented these things that have this concept of environmental impact assessments that have developed for the last 40, 50 years. Central banks, international monetary authorities, and international lending agencies, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and into the conditions that commercial banks, most commercial banks, if not all commercial banks, today require to be met in order for them to consider funding a project. These are things that are essential in today's world. The potential for getting things wrong, creating flooding, creating events which are going to destroy any potential benefits of a project are immense if you don't take it through a disciplined process of understanding, bringing the scientific knowledge and skills to bear and understanding what they are, what those issues are, and how you can avoid it or limit those impacts, mitigate those impacts. It is just, to me, it drives a bulldozer through good governance to take a position that you can do away with environmental impact assessments. Now, that's one major issue.
Yes.
There are other elements of significant issues in what it seems that is being proposed. And that is they're trying to remove the people who have the knowledge from boards, and put on lay people who are just political appointees, and that is just astounding that you would want to do that sort of thing. You would want to remove the people with the skills and the knowledge, just to put on political appointees. And that's why I'm telling you, it's a corrupt initiative. It is following the dictates of a limited number of people, a cabal within the developer community, primarily to do this. And why are they trying to deliver it now? Well, one can be left to speculate, but I would tell you that it's very likely that people need to deliver on promises in order to ensure that they get funding that has been promised to them as a result. Funding for their communities, funding to enable them to successfully conduct elections. And, it's a very sad state of affairs that this country is sliding backwards at a time when we have so many issues that we need to be ensuring that we have good governance around. And if this proceeds, it is going to be an absolute travesty in this country. An absolute travesty. It's going to be a travesty against good governance. It's going to be a travesty against the environment. It's going to be a travesty against the people of this country. All the communities that are already being impacted by the lack of stormwater management planning, that are going to be impacted by climate change. We should be looking at ways to ensure that we have strong resiliency put in place to deal with things like this, to deal with climate change impacts. Instead, we've got a bunch of people that don't have a clue about what they're talking about, who are only interested in trying to facilitate promises to people who are in turn going to reward them for it.
How is it possible? This is where a lot of people are probably sitting here thinking, right, Parliament, they've been meeting all of this week. There's very limited time in January, to sort of wrap things up. How is it possible that they could be bringing this at the very last minute? You mean there will be no public consultation?
Well, I don't know. They have said that there will be public consultation, but that is just constitutionally. There's a requirement to publish the bill 28 days before it is heard and debated in Parliament. It is possible for the Premier, as she did with a number of the bills that were recently considered in Parliament, it is possible to provide short notice to say that these bills are too urgent to meet the 28-day requirement. But the 28-day requirement under the Constitution is one thing. That is just a publication of the bill, and then people may have to organize themselves and read the bill for themselves and try to understand the implications and work out what positions they want to take and what kind of representations they want to make. But a proper consultation with the public should mean that the government engages, the relevant ministry engages, the minister engages, if the minister is brave enough to come forward and articulate exactly why these things are being proposed. And it doesn't have to be the minister, it could be the Premier as well, because it's the Premier's government. It's the Premier's ultimate responsibility. So either one of them, come forward and explain exactly why it is these things are essential and how you conclude that they're not controversial. Why do you want to bring these amendments? And let's see the evidence, because we can look at the statistics, which clearly underscore and eliminate any justification for these kind of amendments. We can demonstrate from a legal perspective how this is a complete backward step in terms of environmental impact assessments, which directly relate to good governance. Because these are projects that are going to, I supported the East-West Arterial extension to Frank Sound. I know there are people who thought that because of my my strong support and perspective on the essential need to protect and preserve our environment, to maintain our quality of life and our way of life, to maintain who we are as Caymanians. Despite that, they think that this was my support of that road was somehow undermining my general support for the environment. That's not the case at all. I think it's necessary, but my position was it had to have the environmental impact assessment. But all of the arguments that I had with my former colleagues in government was around them trying to take the position that we did not need an environmental impact assessment. And the previous two governments did the same thing. They did not do what they should have. They could have done 6 environmental impact assessments in that time, and they chose not to do it. And the government, the ministers, the government as a whole, the National Roads Authority, all of these people were being completely manipulated by special interests. And the good folks at the National Roads Authority couldn't do their job because of the undue influence and the nonsense that was being imposed on them from above. And from people out, and those people above, meaning in the ministry, they were being influenced by people from outside. So this is a really serious problem. But guess what? Because of my insistence that we stick to the requirements, stick to the rules, and move forward with this environmental impact assessment, that environmental impact assessment is now complete for the extension of the bypass up to Frank Sound. It is now complete, and they're about to be issuing what's called a draft environmental statement, which is kind of like what are the impacts and how do we propose to mitigate them. That's about to be done. So that's actually an immense step forward for this country, to be able, for anybody to be able to deliver on what they need to for that road. But I have to say this, Sandra. There have been lots of statements in the past by certain ministers from the eastern districts that this is going to allow people in the eastern districts to sleep 1 more hour and all this sort of stuff. I'm sorry to disappoint them. That is not going to happen. Yes, there will be benefits from the road, but you're not going to get 1 more hour of sleep. That's not going to happen. I'll tell you what the National Roads Authority, what their actual assessment is, and I think I've said it before, it is somewhere in the range of 10 minutes. That is going to be the potential time benefit to having the road connect from Frank Sound down to the Newlands area and then down into town. That is going to be the potential benefit there. We have other issues going on. We have major traffic issues. We have major population issues. And we're not going to resolve them just by dealing with that road. But I support the road. And the reason the road is now in a position where it can move forward properly is because I pounded the table against my own colleagues, against those people in Parliament who were trying to tell the country that Parliament could vote to remove an EIA, when 10 minutes earlier, the Honorable Attorney General stood in a meeting with them at my request to tell them that Parliament couldn't do that. Parliament you don't have the ability in Parliament to just go, oh, let's dispense with all legislation. You don't have the ability in Cabinet to go, let's dispense with this unless somebody gives them the ability to do that. And that's what they're seeking to do with this amendment to the National Conservation Act. They are seeking to have the ability for Cabinet to say, no, we're not going to do what is necessary. We're not going to do what everybody else requires to be done. What Jamaica requires to be done when they're building roads, what Belize requires to be done when they're building roads, what Bermuda requires to be done when they're building roads, and any country and any government with any sense and with any integrity and any desire to stick to good governance has done. And we want to throw that out the window? It makes absolutely zero sense, and it can only be rationalized if you if you accept the potential for the corruption involved with it, because there's no other justification whatsoever. And Sandra, we have an election coming up. This is not an election for me. People know that this is who I am. This is what I believe in. And I will do anything to help this country. I will do anything to help people in this country. But I'm not going to sit back and be quiet and allow corrupt elements in this country to dictate major potential impacts against the rest of us who love this country, who have to live in this country, and who want to see the best for not just the people today, but our children who have to live in this country in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and 20 years from now. We cannot allow these corrupt people who seek to profit and seek to prosper today to destroy the prosperity of our children tomorrow. We cannot do it. I'm sorry I'm passionate about this today, and I'm sorry it's Christmas and it really should be other things, but this is something that's being imposed on us. This is not something that I would choose to be talking about in the middle of a festive season, but it is essential. And I tell you, the volume is only going to get louder. So they can mark that. The volume is only going to get louder. And I want the young people in this country to come out and tell the government and tell those people who are involved in this thing, who are looking to destroy and limit their future. I want them to tell them, not today, not ever. We're going to stand up for our rights. We're going to stand up for it. I want young people to engage. Do not feel disillusioned about politics, because if you continue with that, these people will win, because they're going to continue to push the issues, and they're going to continue. They will win because they'll always find friendly ears who are willing to compromise values and principles.
Wow. All right, folks. Shocking, really, that this is still even a possibility. Mr. Panton, a true patriot, says Cortez Lopez 345. Kaboom, says Michael. El Rey says, wow, the most expensive 10 minutes ever in Cayman history. Shaka Zulu says, if they want 1 more hour of sleep, go to bed an hour earlier. Cayman Youth, thank you. I'm seeing your messages. I'm going to try to go back. I don't know if that ended up in a junk mail folder, but I will definitely try to go back and find that. So they said that they did send us an invite to the forum, but I haven't seen it. So I'll definitely be checking on that. Thank you. And for some reason, folks, if you message me and you don't get a response, I tell people this even on WhatsApp, because I do get a lot of WhatsApp messages, just ping me again, so to make sure that I've read it, because sometimes I'm just scrolling through. I know right now I've got a bunch of unread messages I need to try to clear out. But yeah, sometimes I don't always see the messages. And if stuff is going in junk folder, I've got to add you to the secure list to make sure. This person says, please give that a kaboom. Not today, Bobo. Kaboom! This person says, tell him he shouldn't be sorry. We need passion, especially when it comes to protecting the environment and protecting the future of this country. Ms. Brenda says, should Cayman be outsourcing any more jobs from the financial services industry, hospitality and telecom, etc.? Talk the thing, says Fox Seals. Wayne, get loud, yes. Ms. Pat says, keep that fire in your belly, Mr. Panton. Stand up and be heard. Michael says, always follow the money. It's all pure corruption. So what is it that we need to do now? I mean, do we have dates for when this could potentially be coming to Parliament? When are you guys slated to meet in January?
So at the end of the meeting on Monday night, I had to, Miss Heather and I had to leave. We had a seniors event, as I mentioned earlier, to attend at Peter Castle. So I delivered my best wishes and for Christmas, New Year's to colleagues and to my constituents in Parliament, on the floor of Parliament. And I left early. My understanding is that at the end, prior to moving the motion for adjournment, the Premier indicated that she was going to move the motion for adjournment, not sign a DA, but in other words, not for a date to be determined, but she chose to state the date which I understand was January 31st. As I said, I haven't gone back and looked at the audio or the video, but I'm told that she specifically stated that it was January 31st. So it was adjourned until a date, specific date, which was January 31st. So that means that they would have to publish bills prior to the end of this year.
Okay.
Well, you could go in, technically go into a couple of days into January in order to meet the 28-day requirement. But the indications are that they intend to publish these bills because they have been, the truth is they have been working on versions of, I don't know about the referendum bill, but they certainly have been working on different versions of the National Conservation Act amendments that they want to bring, and they're trying to weigh up, what do we think we can get away with, and still deliver for these people that want this from us. That seems to me to be the calculus that is going on. But it, at the very least, we know that they want to eliminate the scientific minds, the skilled minds from the decision making, and to eliminate EIAs as much as possible. I don't think that they're going to say EIAs are off the table, and you're gone. What they're probably going to do is try to redefine who is subject to, or whose proposals are subject to a review and recommendation for an EIA. So you can easily redefine the entities to exclude cabinet, and then have cabinet make the decision to do a port without an EIA in Georgetown, a cruise port in Georgetown Harbor without an EIA, to do a proposed port in East End, in Breakers without an EIA, to extend roads and build this and build that, major projects, build the airport. We had that last discussion here where the minister came on and was suggesting that he objected to a discussion around the possibility of trying to build an airport extension into the North Sound without doing an EIA. Well, I am certain that is the kind of thing that they're going to try to do. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Why are you proposing an amendment when it's absolutely not required? What they need to be doing is looking at amendments on the development planning law. They need to be looking at how to improve the situation for people in this country who, are being chased because they built a shed in their backyard, and they're being asked to pay fines in relation to that. Whereas people who build roads or propose to build this and build that, without approvals, nobody's saying to them, hey, come immediately and do an after the fact application. We're going to consider this seriously. No. For too often in this country, the approach that's taken is it is easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. And too often they just give them permission and they say, well, it's already done. So what's done is done. So let's just give it to them. Listen, if we took that approach with everything, this country would go to hell in a handbasket in a hurry.
Okay. All right, folks, 936-2626. It is after 10 o'clock. We're going to start to wrap things up a little bit here with Mr. Panton.
Down.
Yeah, it's okay. Miss Sue says, praying they sort out public beach. It's so bad with the higglers. It's scary if tourists having bad experience. They'll be sorry. We need our good tourism back. So that's a whole other mess as well.
Yeah, that's a whole other mess. I tried to sort that out in 2014 as a minister. And I was told by my colleagues, leave it alone, leave it alone. And I went down there and talked to the guys who were there then. And at that time was about 3 or 4 of them. I said, why are you guys here? Who told you could come and use the public's beach for commercial purposes? They told me, McKeever Bush told me we could do it.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the kind of nonsense that we've had to deal with. And now with the benefit of 10 years, we now see the impacts. We now see what we're dealing with as a result of one person deciding that they're all powerful and can issue edicts and permissions orally to people. It's just crazy. I mean, I find it mind-boggling that the public beach that we all used to enjoy, you can't even go down there without smelling weed all over the place, asking somebody coming up to ask you if you want to buy cocaine or weed or beers illegally. And on top of that, you can't get to the beach. You can't walk along that beach because you're gonna buck up in chairs or umbrellas poking your eyes out. It is just crazy what we're allowing in this country. It is crazy. And you see all the things that have been done to change the setbacks and to change the where people can build from and all that. And they're allowed to build walls down into the beach for years. They're told what the impacts are. And then when the impacts finally happen and they see it happening more and more and hotels are nearly getting washed away, then everybody is like, oh, this is, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Well, it happened because we let it happen. We've sat back and allowed people to make stupid decisions when the people with science, the science knowledge, the people who understand these principles and concepts have been telling us this is what's going to happen, right? In February this year, we had a northwester that kicked the butts of many developments on the northwest corner all the way down to the south side of this country. And when the Department of Environment posted their comments in relation to these projects to show that the very comments that they had made in relation to those projects that were being built were the kinds of comments that were predicting those kinds of impacts that they were seeing then. You know what the response was? Oh, don't do that because you're preventing us from being able to sell our developments. Well, how about doing it right to begin with? If you want to have a reputation where people can trust you and people want to buy your product, how about doing it right to begin with? Because at the end of the day, you may cause somebody's life to be lost with this stupid idea of putting greed and profit above sense. It's just crazy. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right, sorry, I got to wind down.
Yeah. El Rey says government wants to cruise port piers, but we can't even manage public beach. Just imagine the influx of tourism of tourists with the cruise port.
I mean, did you see the video with that lady the other day?
We posted another one since then. I don't know.
I saw a video that you posted with fights going on down there.
Yeah.
And this is tons of people. It's no longer four groups or four individuals that were doing it back in 2014. It's more like about 24. And then they want to extend this. They want to extend this to other public beaches around the country potentially. No. Public beaches are for the public to use in a quiet enjoyment manner, not having people trying to sell them illegal substances and illegally sell legal substances, meaning the alcohol, and then playing loud music and impacting the quality of enjoyment of our own public beaches.
Exactly. It's horrible. I mean, no one wants to go to the public beach anymore, including myself, because again, you go there, you're inundated with the smell of marijuana everywhere. If you have small children, you don't want them exposed to that. You don't want your teenagers exposed to that.
I said to you, I'm an advocate for decriminalizing marijuana, which means removing the criminal elements of it. But I am not an advocate for people to go smoke marijuana out in the streets and around kids. Because that's happening now, even though we haven't decriminalized. So decriminalization is a separate issue. But it's a more discrete issue. We need to change the stuff that's going on in this country. We need.
Cassius says, I think the PPM wasn't interested in doing the EWA period. The EIA requirement was only an excuse. The PPM has no interest in improving the lives of those regular Caymanians. Cortez says we need Mr. Panton to field the full slate of candidates on the same agenda and policies to protect Cayman. Damien says that's why cruise tourists don't like Jamaica. Stop as too much haggling, drugs, and getting cursed out when they don't buy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's being brought here now as well. El Rey says true passion for the betterment of our country. Team Panton 2025, says Cortez. So, Mr. Panton, let's wrap up. I know that we're going to be obviously seeing more of you in the coming weeks and months ahead. of the 2025 general election. Of course, we want to wish you and your family a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. John LaRue says, I would vote for Mr. Panton if he came back. Dee Dee says public beaches are supposed to be a place of relaxation and spending time with family and friends.
Yes.
And, you know, we're going to talk more about that next week as well on the program. So thank you for coming on the show, for highlighting, like you said, it'd be nice if we could sit here and have nice, relaxed conversations coming into the holidays, but we understand that there's still a lot of important things that are potentially on the agenda that, our people need to pay attention to. You guys need to be on the alert. Don't fall asleep just because it's the holiday season. Keep your eyes on the ball. We will certainly here on CMR be keeping an eye on everything that's happening in the community. Any bills, controversial bills that are coming down the pipeline that we hear about, we will let you know. I'm still in a fact-finding mission in relation to Barkers. I'm going to try to get some more information to bring that to you all, the public as well. And of course, please, the group that hosted the forum last night, the Cayman Youth, please reach out to me on WhatsApp. My personal number is 324-1612. I think that most people have that. Oftentimes, that is the best way to reach me. Please reach out there, and I'm going to try to ascertain what happened to your email. If it's in a junk mail folder, we need to whitelist it so that I make sure I get messages from you guys as well, because I really would have been there last night. You were not there last night, Mr. Panton. There's some people asking why you were not in attendance when I know your organization sponsored the event.
Well, I to be honest, I'm not sure. First of all, I don't want to say it's my organization.
Right.
My wife and a very, very amazing group of people run the Alex Panton Foundation. I have stepped back years ago from it because I did not want to run the risk of somebody bringing political issues into it. And frankly, I am very passionate about the same issues. I'm very passionate about the interests of the youth. I'm very passionate about mental health as something that we must protect and preserve and promote and remove the stigma from it, because it is no less just an issue to deal with upfront than any other physical illness, right? So I don't recall actually seeing an invitation, but I can tell you that because of the APF's involvement and certain of the people from the APF, the young ambassadors, the young, wonderful young people that advocate for mental health issues in the country, because of their involvement, I would not have participated anyway. But I don't think anybody in this country who knows me, I mean, most people, you're not going to ask a question of where is Wayne's view on this? Where is Wayne's view on that relating to the interests of the young people in this country? I think they know that very well. So I didn't feel that it was something that I had to be at, and I thought about contacting them when I heard about it, and I thought, you know what, I'll just leave it alone, because I'd like to give the opportunity to some of the other people who came along. I'd like to hear their views. I also want to say this. My government at the time, back in 2022, I think it was, early 22, we were the only government in the history of the Cayman Islands that I am aware of who has ever brought together a group of young people and brought them into caucus and gave them the opportunity to talk directly to the leaders in the country, to the entire government in the country, and articulate their issues. And they did an amazing job. And I tell you, there were young people who were passionate. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of expressions of frustrations, expressions of hope, but tears as well. It was truly amazing. And there were people around that table who, some of them who still are in government today, who were sitting there with tears coming out of their eyes and going, yes, you're the reason I'm here. You're the reason I'm here. Well, show it. Show that you have the interests of the young people in this country at heart. And let's not be playing games with it. Show them that you can make a decision today that 5 years later can stand up to scrutiny as being a good decision, and one which respects and reflects the appropriate perspective on the interest of young people 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Show that. If you're going to sit there and pile on the tears in front of them, show that you respect them. Show that you respect their views. Right? Because I don't see it happening. I do not see it happening. What I see is the same old cabals and potential corruption and initiatives dragging issues all over the place, rather than a group that are focused on delivering the best quality of life, the best opportunity, the best education for these people that we hold dear as our fellow Caymanians.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Panton. We really, really appreciate you, being steadfast on these issues that people do care about, and for being the voice of reason, especially when it comes to doing things in a balanced way, because that's extremely important. So, thank you again.
Thank you. And let's wish everybody wonderful holidays.
Yes.
Spend time with family. Well, all the best for the new year, and let's all drive safely. Let's all, don't drink and drive, please. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I get very, very distressed when I see the numbers of people that are dying on our roads. And I had to sit in a median next to a traffic accident in Newlands, on the verge of Newlands, on the bypass, a short time ago, and knowing that a young man had lost his life there, on the edge of a park, no less, that is designed for young people to be able to enjoy themselves and and to have a wonderful quality of life. It is really distressing. Our numbers had gone down. We reduced the legal alcohol limits from 0.1 to 0.07. Numbers had come down as hopefully as a result, but the numbers had come down. Now they're going back up, and this time of the year, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of celebration. Please, everyone, look after each other. Be the pain in the ass to people and say, no, give me your car keys. I'm not going to let you drive. Because you may save their life, or you may also save the life of someone that you love and care about. And even if you don't love them and care about them in terms of them being close family, try to have some care and consideration for other road users. Let's all work together to make Cayman a better place and to allow us to continue to exist. And I want to see road deaths in this country eliminated. That it has to be the aspiration. That has to be the aspiration.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you very
much.
Right.
Thank you very, very much. Yes, thank you so much. All right, appreciate it. All right, Jim says, Merry Christmas to Panton, to you and your family. Blessings for the new year. Dee Dee says, a lie is comfortable to a fool, and that's obvious. We, the people, have been considered as fools. Justice will be served, says, I wish politicians would look out for construction workers and the salary. These foreigners are running Cayman like a slavery ground. It's not just foreigners, my dear. We look at Fred McLaughlin and we see what he's doing to foreign workers, and that is equally as wrong. Folks, thank you guys so much for tuning into the program. Of course, we're coming now into the holiday season. Somebody was just messaging me saying, Sandy, what's the CMR schedule going to be like for the holidays? I do need to take some time off myself. We do have family that will be here on Monday visiting from overseas, and we're going to spend some quality time with them. This will be their first time from the UK visiting our beautiful islands. Of course, we want to show them all the wonderful and amazing things to see and do here in Cayman, especially in Grand Cayman. And, just family, friends, lots of good food coming up. I think Mr. Panton had promised me a turkey for Christmas. So I need to link him and see if that's still coming. I got my Cayman style beef yesterday. So big shout out to a friend who listened to the program and said, Sandy, I got some in my fridge. And you know what? You sound like you need it more than me right now. So they resold me their beef that they had gotten from the turtle farm. So I appreciate that. I'm also on the lookout for some kunks. Anybody got some kunk? I got somebody who wants to do some marinated conch for me for Christmas dinner. So hook me up, folks. I'm willing to pay. I know things are not free in life, so I'm willing to pay. But do message me if you can assist in any way. But you know what? We're coming into time now about family and remembering the reason for the season. So I'm going to wish all of you a very happy Christmas in advance. I think we'll be here on Monday. I think we'll do a Monday show. But I'm going to decide today what the schedule is going to be. I've got a couple exciting things in the pipeline that we're going to launch as of January the 1st. So I do need to take some time off to also work on those in the background, some tech advances and a new platform that our show is also going to be available on. So lots of exciting things. You know, we don't believe in sitting back on our laurels and doing nothing. We're all about improvement every single day. And I look forward to New Year. I love New Year's because it gets you an opportunity to look at your vision board, to rethink where you're at in your life, what you want to do with your life, both personally and professionally, and what's next. So we have a lot of exciting things. Of course, CMR, your forerunner for the general election, just like we were in 2021, we really stepped up our game. That was our first election cycle as a platform. And we really brought it. We brought it hard, and we intend to do the exact same thing. I want to thank the candidates who have already reached out, who've already committed to being in front of the people, to answering your questions, to engaging with you, because it does take a lot. Like I was mentioning a few days ago, not everyone has this extroverted personality, So when you see Mr. Panton come on here and he gets emotive and he, kind of comes a little bit harder than you're used to him, that takes energy. That requires a lot, especially for people who are just not natural extroverts. And so it's emotionally draining and it takes a lot out of them. But you know that these people care about this country. They care about the people of this country. They care about the environment. They care about the issues impacting our lives. So respect for that, respect for putting yourself out there and being willing to engage with the people, and also being held accountable and have the people give you your opinion and engage with them on a routine and regular basis. So I want to thank the candidates who've committed to coming on. Of course, in January, you'll see many more of them. The one thing I will say is now, the model that I've said, and I've been completely transparent with you guys, is during an election cycle, it's pay to play. So you're paying to come on. And so, keep that in mind. Yes, they are paying candidates, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to ask your tough questions. They have to be prepared, and they have to be willing to speak to the people honestly and frankly. I thank Ralston Anglin for coming on this morning. Lots of questions, obviously, around his candidacy. And some of you are still like, I don't know. So, if you're in West Bay North, obviously he's got some convincing to do, and you need to look at all the candidates and see what's there, because it's going to come down to making a choice, right? The one thing I must say about Ralston that's very, very interesting is, despite all of his issues, pretty much everyone that I've always spoken to, even before now, have always said he was actually a very, very good minister. That in his job, in his ministerial role, but again, sometimes the other stuff gets in the way. So you got to be able to focus, put the personal foolishness and pettiness aside and focus on what you need to do. There's a lesson in that, really, frankly, for all of us, because we've all fallen short at some time or another in our personal lives. And once it starts to impact your professional life, especially when you're a representative of the people, or you want to be a representative of the people, then it's a whole other ball game. So come ready, come prepared. This is not child's play. We're not here to hold anybody's hands. You guys have got to be serious. You are applying for a job. You're either reapplying, or, if you're first time campaigning, you're applying for a job, and you have got to be prepared. You do your homework. You do your legwork. CMR is not here to coddle you or to hold your hand. We're the voice of the people, and the people have a lot to say, and they have a lot of questions. Thank you guys so much. Please, 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 I'm imploring you to have a safe weekend in our roadways. There's obviously a lot of extra traffic. I think now most of the schools are going to be out, and there's a lot going on with people trying to do last minute Christmas shopping. just take your time, be sensible on the roadway, no drinking and driving, look out for other people, stop when you're supposed to, give way when you're supposed to, use indicators. I mean, 99.9% of it really is common sense, or it should be common sense. And yet we see so much bad driving, talking on the phone while you're driving, being distracted. All of these things can negatively impact how safe you can be on the roadways. And with the increase now and the amount of people driving, the amount of pedestrians, we've got people on the little scooters everywhere. They're not wearing helmets. God knows it's a real recipe for disaster. But I ask you all to please slow down, take your time. Nowhere that you're going is going to be worth getting there if you're going to have an accident, if you're going to injure someone, you're going to hurt yourself, or even worse. So be sensible. Get yourself a designated driver if you're going out to dinners, to parties, whatever. Call a taxi. Please, please, please. If we can make it through the holiday season without any more fatalities or serious road accidents, it would totally be amazing. So, praying that we can at least make that much happen. All right. So enjoy the weekend, weekend before the holiday, before Christmas next week. A lot of you will be, like I said, doing your final preparations, getting your stuff. I got my meat already sorted out. Just the conch now is all I need. But yes, we're going to have a wonderful Christmas dinner and lots of things on the dessert table. As you well know, we're going to have a fantastic time. So I'll see you guys on Monday. I think I'll do a Monday show. Yeah, we'll have some fun on Monday. All right. Please don't forget, I've got a couple of gift certificates that have been donated. If you have a family that's in need, reach out and I'm happy to give them a gift certificate from our donors, anonymous donors, for the Christmas and holiday season. All right, folks, have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.